All right, and I believe we are live. Hello, hello. Welcome, folks. Give me a second here just to get going. Get a few things up here, make sure we're good. All right. All right, so looks like we're up and running. If you can't hear me, let me know in the comments. All right, so welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. This is Radical Democracy, and your host, Kamali Rose. It's been a little while since I've seen you last, so thank you for being here. We're going to take care of a couple of things off the top and then get to some news and some discussion as usual. If you're here and you haven't already, please do me a favor and like this video and subscribe if you haven't. We're actually really close to 100 subscribers, so I'm pretty excited. We should hit that 100 subscriber count today during the stream. So if you haven't already, get us to 100 by just subscribing. I actually have some things I want to talk about regarding the, that will relate to the 100 subscriptions, actually, that I want to, pose a question to the community, get your feedback on. So we'll get into that soon as well. So, all right. I want to start off the top by just doing a shout out to our newest Patreon subscriber. So this actually happened on our last live stream. We got a new Patreon subscriber and I didn't catch it. So I'm sorry that it took me so long to give you the shout out, but big shout out to Mark McKeever for subscribing on Patreon, donating a few bucks a month. That's really, what's going to allow this show to continue and to grow. And so it is deeply appreciated. So thank you, Mark. Thank you so much, Mark. And shout out to Mark McKeever and to all the Patreon patrons. You are the reason that the show can be what it is. So of course, if you can't contribute, that's totally understandable. We're in the midst of a pandemic and economic depression. So I don't blame you at all. I appreciate anyone that can and extends themselves to do that. I really, really appreciate it. But I appreciate everyone in the community for being here, for showing up, for, engaging in the chat. Love your comments and for just, sharing these videos, everything that you do, any thing that you're doing to either, just being out there in the on the front lines, if you're out there protesting or, doing whatever you're doing to try to push the left agenda forward, then I appreciate it and definitely appreciate you all. So thank you so much. And yeah, I see a comment from What Up America. Says hashtag no comrades under 1K. If you're not already participating, please, it's been awesome. I've been on, if you're on Twitter, there is this hashtag no comrades under 1K where folks are all following other comrades, other leftists, and it's been really cool. I love my Twitter feed now. I was getting depressing with following so many like centrists. I would just had a disproportionate amount of centrists given my ideology. And so it was really refreshing to get all these new comrades in there. So if you're not already participating, please do. And, if you're on Twitter, find a thread, you just go and follow everyone and folks will follow you back. And it really just improves the quality of your Twitter feed, to be honest, to get a lot more leftists in there. So, we're at, Tammy, let us know. We're at 99, so close to triple digits. Awesome. Thank you to our newest subscriber, whoever you are. Shout out. Unfortunately, I don't got real time enough data to know those off the top. But shout out to our newest subscriber. Thank you so much to whoever subscribed. If you haven't already, do me a favor, like this video. subscribe if you haven't already. I have about 50% of the time that folks are watching my videos, they're not subscribed. So I need more folks subscribing and you know, just to help grow the channel. Honestly, it just helps put it out there. You know, you'll get especially if you can stand it, if you hit that notification bell to receive notifications whenever we go live or launch a new video, then that really helps as well. As long as, you know, when you see them, click on those videos, like them. At least if you can't even watch them at the time, just make sure you're clicking through if you can and like them. That's what the YouTube algorithm pays the closest attention to. They call it the click-through rate. And so that's what they care about. I just want to get the information out there to as many people as possible. And so, you know, if you can help me do that in any way, it's really deeply appreciated. So thank you so much to everyone that you know, shares these videos and also just checks them out, watches and comments and engages. So that's all, you know, all appreciated. I just love the discussions that are going on in some of these threads on some of these videos. So, and we'll talk some about that today, actually. So, all right. I think we are ready. So one of the things, I think one of the things I wanted to talk to folks about, I might wait till more folks are in the stream before I get going on it, but I do want to, I have a possible, you know, some folks were interested in doing super chats and stuff like that. And so I have some, you know, an idea that was originally Tammy's actually. And we, you know, she just had an idea about how to grow the channel a little bit faster, you know, using another channel of mine actually. And so, she's claiming that it's not her idea, but I think it was her idea. I'm not going to take credit for this. It was it? Maybe. Okay. So we'll I don't think so. Maybe. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was Tammy. She's not taking credit for this, but I'm pretty sure we owe it to her. But yeah, so essentially I have another channel. So, and I'll talk about it more and I can talk about it more in detail, weigh the pros and cons, but I have another channel that I had started a while ago. It's on a completely different topic. It was a cannabis growing channel, but on that channel, I have about close to 1,000 subscribers on that channel. And I just don't even use the channel anymore. And because one of the stats that you need to monetize on YouTube is that you need to get to 1,000 subscribers, I could essentially merge my channels. I could go and take over that old channel and just upload all my existing videos onto it, and then start to use that as my channel. And sorry, 1 second, y'all. At one point, you probably already passed the hours. Yeah. So I on the other channel, I have, you know, there's a time requirement of 4,000 hours on YouTube plus 1,000 subscribers in order to monetize your channel. And so in order to do things like super chat or anything like that, I don't really want to do ad revenue, to be honest, because ads are annoying and I don't think it'll be very much. But at least for the ability to do super chats, that's the only thing I'm really interested in at the moment. You need 4,000 hours watched plus 1,000 subscribers within one year rolling period. And so if we can get to that number, you know, I could essentially open up the super chat feature. And so yeah. So I likely, I may have met the 4,000 on that other one because it says it acts as if I can monetize my other channel already. So essentially I would be moving my subscriber, you know, I would be asking my subscribers on this channel to subscribe to me on the other channel, and I would start to upload videos to that channel instead. So I don't want to dwell on this too long right now because I want to get into the news, because I see people are dropping in and out right now, and so I don't want to spend too long on this. I want to start getting into the news and discussion. And so we'll come back to this when I see more people in the stream, really, because I'd like to just pose the question, and I want to hear from the community. What do you think? Essentially, the pros are that I can monetize sooner. It would be a larger larger potential audience for the videos, because more people, more people will get the notification, that have subscribed to my other channel. And so it could open up a potentially larger audience for that. I imagine some folks on my other channel, I mean, it was just a cannabis growing channel, so it wasn't political at all. Who knows? I'm sure there's a broad range of people on that subscribe to me, but they're all likely cannabis enthusiasts, so they can't be too right wing. So they'll probably be open to left ideas, and so I think that could be a potential base of folks to, grow the audience. And then also just having more subscribers is like a stupid, annoying, like social proof thing where it's just essentially like a PR, like psychological, trick that like the marketing industry does on folks, where it's just an unfortunate thing, behavioral quirk of human beings, where in this current society, where you're seeing that more people, like something, you're more likely to view that. If somebody has 1,000 subscribers, you're more likely to give them a look than somebody that has only 100 subscribers. So that's the idea behind it. The cons of it is that it might be considered like, some folks may look at it as like cheating, even though in my opinion, you're cheating a capitalist platform. This is a capitalist corporation. YouTube is, Google is, that runs this, and I see no issue with resisting capitalism in that way. So that's my, I don't have any issues with that. And so the other cons would be like a potentially lower click-through rate for the algorithm, for the YouTube algorithm, as I explained it. And then it's a bit of tedious work to move the videos over. So those are the issues. That's what those are the pros and cons I need to weigh. Please leave your thoughts in the comments if you have an opinion on that one way or the other. What Up America says, I think it's a good idea. So I like that. That's, one of our longtime, comrades. And so love, definitely value everyone's opinion, but definitely appreciate that. And so, yeah, that's one in favor. So thank you, What Up, for weighing in there. And anyone else, if you can, please just drop a comment in the chat, or if you're watching this after the fact, feel free to drop a comment in the description. I mean, sorry, in the, below, leave a comment below and just let me know how you feel about it. If you think it's a good idea, bad idea, for or against it, let me know and we'll do it and we'll make it happen soon. So I'm going to start to upload the videos onto there just as because it's going to take a while anyway. And I don't see anything wrong with at least uploading the videos over there. I don't have to actually ask people to move over yet, but I'm going to start uploading the videos over there and see how people react on that channel as well for that. So I don't mind losing. I imagine I'm going to lose some subscribers over there, but it will, be a lot quicker than having to grow a new channel. That channel, I did it like 3 years ago. I started like 3 years ago and never finished stopped contributing, stopped building making content for like 3 years. So, but I still get new subscribers and lots of views on that channel. So I would leave those videos up and still let them be viewed. All right, so let's get to it. Let's start to chat a bit about the news of the day. All right. So the first thing that I want to talk about, I think we're going to get into this bit about the DNC. It's really just got some thoughts I want to share on it. And so on the topic of the DNC, I don't really have anything that I'm ready to present on this per se, but I was thinking about doing the stream last night, and news broke, news broke at like 7 o'clock or so last night, about an hour before the DNC convention started for the night. And apparently they added, Colin Powell was going to, so Colin Powell was announced as a featured speaker at the DNC. And this now adds to, John Kasich, Colin Powell, and Mike Bloomberg, 3 Republicans essentially that were presenting at the DNC at the same time that they had a grand total of 3 Latinos. This is down from I think 8 or 11 Latinos that spoke at the last DNC, the last Democratic National Convention. And so Latinos had equal representation to Republicans and at the recent DNC. And there was, Nina Turner got snubbed. Anyone that dissented against Joe Biden got snubbed in any way. And even the folks that bent the knee to Joe Biden, that, essentially kissed the ring. And folks like, honestly, AOC, who gave up the power of withholding her vote almost instantaneously as soon as Bernie Sanders did the same thing. As soon as Bernie Sanders dropped out, he endorsed Joe Biden without getting any real concessions for the left. He got some weak task forces, some tepid, agreement to some really weak, toothless task forces that would meet and discuss issues, these issue-based task forces. And so essentially these there was like a task force on healthcare, a task force on climate change that AOC was a part of, the task force on healthcare. I think that, Abdul El-Sayed, just the Justice Democrat who ran for governor of Michigan and lost, unfortunately. He was, he's a strong proponent for Medicare for all. He was on the healthcare task force, but these task forces were toothless. Every real strong leftist, the Kyle Kalinske, Crystal Ball, they all saw it ahead of time and could see ahead of time that these task forces were toothless and would have no real impact. You don't need a task force. I think it might have been Kyle Kalinske who said, you don't need a task force to decide to talk about the healthcare plan when you know what the healthcare plan that we need is, Medicare for all. You either are for it or against it. You don't need a task force to decide it. And Joe Biden has already said clearly that he is against it. And so there's and he's been against it his entire career. So to think that this 70 some odd year old politician is going to suddenly change his ways and become some, progressive after he gains power, after he gains the most power in the country, all of a sudden, then he's going to change his mind when he has absolutely nobody that he needs to listen to anymore. That's when he's going to finally change his mind. That's absurd. So Joe Biden is against Medicare for all. You can have a task force on all you want, but at the end of the day, Joe Biden doesn't support Medicare for all. He didn't put Abdul El-Sayed in charge of, HHS, the Human Health and, Services, I believe. And that's, he's not offering him a position in his administration. He's not giving any real progressives, anyone that actually believes in the policies that we know as leftists to be the critical policies to meet the moment. He doesn't support any of that. And these task forces were not going to change anything about that. And so this was, we knew. So Bernie Sanders to give up his endorsement in exchange for these task forces that literally the task forces have already met and completed. And if you haven't heard about them, it's because they were meaningless. And if you have heard about them, you probably heard that they were meaningless and nothing got done. They came out of there with all the same language of the Joe Biden campaign. It's anti-Medicare for all, anti-Green New Deal. There's not even a mention of the word Green New Deal in the, document that came out of the climate change committee, the climate change task force that AOC was a part of. And she is literally the author of the Green New Deal in Congress. I believe it was her that brought forth the legislation for the Green New Deal with Ed Markey in the Senate. And so Yeah, if you can, by the way, support Ed Markey against Joe Kennedy, because that dude is terrible. He's just a neoliberal piece of garbage that we cannot allow that monarchy, the Kennedy monarchy, to continue. And so if you can I don't know, if you can do anything to help Ed Markey in any way, I mean, I'm sure a couple of bucks would help. Volunteering for his campaign, if you can, would be great. But like, you know, we cannot let Joe Kennedy become the next senator from Massachusetts. I got my ballot here voting against that fool. You know, I got my ballot. I'm a Massachusetts resident, so I have the pleasure of voting against Joe Kennedy, but we got to get that clown out. But this is we Bernie Sanders, he didn't get any real concessions. What he could have got was Joe Biden to have to agree to something like signing on to some form of some agreement that said he would do X amount of executive orders, because he has the actual power to go. He doesn't have to wait on Congress to do something like legalize cannabis. He could legalize cannabis federally, decriminalize it, deschedule it, so that it's no longer a Schedule 1 drug, is more dangerous than like heroin, according to the scheduling, in methamphetamines, and so descheduling it, at least, because even methamphetamines are allowed to be used for research and for medicine. So there are things like Adderall, and so, or amphetamines, at least, I'm sorry, I don't know if it's a methamphetamine, but amphetamine. And so they have cannabis scheduled as worse than that. So you can't even do research with it legally, federally. So you could get Joe Biden to agree to something like to federally legalize cannabis and get him to sign on to something like that before you give him your endorsement. He didn't. The left got nothing from Joe Biden. Joe Biden has made zero concessions throughout his entire campaign, and he has doubled and tripled down on it. And so and I think we'll get into a story that shows some of that later, and very soon, actually. And so Joe, the whole Biden campaign so far has been just spitting in the face of progressives. The DNC has now doubled, tripled down on that with this latest snub of AOC got 60 seconds of pre-recorded DNC approved video for the DNC for this Democratic National Convention, but John Kasich got a chance to speak freely. Mike Bloomberg got a chance to speak freely, and Colin fucking Powell got to speak freely. Like, these are George Bush might as well have come out and spoke at this convention. Like, they might as well. They love this dude now, so they might as well. Like, liberals are falling over themselves, and be real. What I see a lot of folks falling over themselves it's supporting folks like George W. Bush. So that's just what we're dealing with right now. So I couldn't watch. I couldn't watch. I'm sorry, folks. I know I want to do this channel, and so I should be being the one to endure some things like that for you, so that you don't have to. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't sit through the DNC. I couldn't watch it. I watched about 15 minutes. I caught Jim Clyburn's terrible speech, and I saw 15 minutes of it. They literally didn't mention a single policy in 15 minutes of watching this thing. Not a single mention of policy. And then some dude gets on there, some like Marine, like vet dude gets on there, and he's like, he literally said something like, he was like, policy matters and all, but like, I was just like, dude, after he said that, I was just like, all right, I can't. They literally, this thing is devoid of all substance, and it's a bunch of people that I cannot stand as a leftist. These are the worst of the worst. Jim Clyburn, I mean, the dude is a sellout of the highest order. The dude has sold out his blackness to this neoliberal, order of just like, white supremacist Joe Biden, segregationist Joe Biden. Like, let's be real. And I know I'm going to upset some folks. Like, we're going to have a discussion about voting and about who we're voting for. And I really, this is a point of contention, and I don't want to, like, it doesn't need to be. I honestly, I don't personally know what the right answer is. It's just unfortunate that they've left us in a position where there's no clear right answer, in my opinion. And so I think that I totally understand folks that are holding their nose to vote for Joe Biden. I get them. I totally understand folks that are like, I've had enough and I'm voting third party, or I'm not voting at all because this whole system is BS, and I'm tired of, shuffling the same, BS around every 4 years and getting more of the same policy outcomes. And so we can talk about how bad Donald Trump is, but when we go about it in a really, if we're talking about more than just the rhetoric, and we're talking about the actual program that these people have implemented, the Joe Biden or the Obama, program is not all that different than the Donald Trump program. Okay. I know, like, there's a famous image that came out in the Trump era of kids in cages, laying on the concrete under these like makeshift blankets. And it turned out it was from the Obama era. It was from Obama Biden. They were the deporter in chief. He was the deputy deporter in chief, Joe Biden, under, the deporter in chief, Obama. And we have to reckon with these things, that the policies are, Donald Trump, of course, his rhetoric is terrible. It's awful. It's exhausting how bad his rhetoric is. But I don't know if that's absolutely worse than, having the same exact program, destructive program that actually substantively damages people, and then having a bunch of people that aren't paying attention to it because they're comfortable with it. They're comfortable with what Martin Luther King referred to as a negative peace, which is an absence of tension, versus a positive peace, which is a presence of justice. So people want peace, and they talk about peace, and peace to them just means no tension, no conflict, when instead of actual justice existing everywhere. That if you have a presence of justice, that's peace. That's peace to me. That's what peace is. And anything less than that is not peaceful. So I just, that's where I stand on that. And so Martin Luther King, in that same speech, he also, and this is his letter from a Birmingham jail, in that same letter, he also talked about the fact that, he believes that, and I should pull it up, what the exact quote is, but it's essentially to say that, like, mild, like acceptance from people of goodwill can be worse than outright rejection from people of ill will. And it's like, at least it's the devil I know versus the devil I don't kind of thing. And so I don't begrudge anyone in this election for the choice they have to make, because I don't think that we've been given a whole bunch of good choices here. And so I'll get into it more about where I actually, where I'm coming down on all this, and we'll really, in a conversation we're going to have later, we're going to talk more about this. We're going to do a piece about, just a segment about, does voting really matter? And it's based on a user a comment that we got. And so we'll talk about that soon, and we can dig into that more and get some more discussion around that happening. But as far as the DNC is concerned, they've now given more speaking time to Republicans than actual true progressives. Bernie Sanders has been totally, his message has been sanitized, and he's over here standing for Kamala Harris. So we already see and know that there's Bernie has pivoted to, bending the knee for, and I get it. He genuinely believes that Donald Trump is just so abhorrent, and I understand why people have that feeling, and I don't want to push people away, because I want those people to at least hear me out, so that hopefully we can have this discussion and come to realize I can at least understand where they're coming from. I hope that folks will understand where I'm coming from as somebody who cannot vote for Joe Biden and will not vote for Joe Biden under any circumstance at this point. The one circumstance that was left that could have gotten me to vote for him was if he had chosen Nina Turner as his vice president, which we all knew he wasn't. We all knew there was 0% chance of that happening, but I still left out the possibility to vote for him. I didn't want to be totally unreasonable. I'm trying to be reasonable. And I thought, okay, that's the one reasonable concession that I'm willing to accept, to vote for him. I would have voted for him in order to empower Anina Turner, because I think that whoever the vice president is under Joe Biden, if Joe Biden wins, because that's still a big damn if. And I'll just say, I don't know. I don't think that Joe Biden has this thing locked up. And I'm far less confident in Joe Biden after his Kamala Harris pick than I even was before it, because I think that it actually makes his candidacy even less likely to succeed. And so, but that's what they're doing. You know, they're so married to the idea of shunning the left, and they want, you know, Kyle Kalinske tweeted out something to the effect of like, they want you to feel so terrible for all leftists. They want you to feel, if you're the kind of leftist that is going to make that calculated choice of trying to hold your nose and vote for Joe Biden, they are trying to make it as difficult as humanly possible. And they're honestly, that what the DNC moves show me is that they don't want the left in the Democratic Party. They don't want us there. They don't feel like they need us, and they don't want us there. The Democratic Party is no longer the party of working class people. Let's be real. They're the party of the professional managerial class. You know, they want to cater to capitalism. They're a capitalist party through and through. Listen to Nancy Pelosi, the leader of the party right now, who says we are a capitalist party. And so, you know, we're all capitalists, she said. And so they're a capitalist party. They are married to these ideas of neoliberalism, which, you know, believes that capitalism and, you know, regulated market solutions are the answer to all of life's woes, when they've just been proven for decades and decades and decades to just not be true, to just not be the case. If you look at it empirically, why does homelessness, poverty, wealth inequality, instability, why do those things follow capitalism? Every single place it exists for the past 200 to 300 years. If you listen to Dr. Richard Wolff, economist Richard Wolff, he tells you for the past 200 to 300 years, every single place that capitalism has existed, it has had an economic downturn, or what they call the business cycle, or a downturn, or a recession, or a depression, or a crash, the boom bust cycle. That they have so many names for it because it happens so much, and they just won't call it what it is, which is just failure of capitalism and the instability of capitalism. But it happens every 4 to 7 years average under capitalism. Well, you know, this economic instability, as well as wealth inequality. And so it just, those they follow capitalism everywhere it goes. And so to have a party that's married to it, sure, one's slightly better than the other. You know, the Democratic Party is slightly better than the Republican Party, but they keep on narrowing the gap further and further, to the point where, I mean, look at John Kasich and Colin Powell feel at home in this party. Like, they're not, I don't share any ideology with John Kasich or Colin Powell. Like, maybe in some off chance we overlap on like 2 issues, maybe I don't even know if we do, and it would be for the wrong reasons. I'm sure that they're defending whatever position they agree with me on, but it's like, I agree with these people honestly, seriously, no joke, less than I agree with Donald Trump. And let me tell you why. Because at least Donald Trump, his reflex, even though he doesn't follow through on this, but his reflex is to be like anti-war typically. You know, like he spoke out against the Iraq war. That was his whole shtick during the last election cycle. So there was definitely that, these people are not, I just do not align with them in any way, shape, or form. And so and I don't think any leftists would. And so look at what they're signaling to us. Even AOC, who they put on there as the closest thing, you know, the who many people, young people, see as the future of the party. If the party felt like she was the future of the party, would they be giving her a 60-second sanitized speech, you know, pre-recorded, pre-approved speech, and giving John Kasich and Colin Powell free, you know, time to just ramble, you know, say whatever they got to say and say their part? They're not afraid of what their message, but they're afraid of AOC's message. And so much so that they're like, no, we have to approve this. It can only be 60 seconds. That's really, and if that doesn't signal to you, these people do not want you, I don't know what else will. Like, it's not our fault. It's not people's fault for feeling Like they don't want to vote for the Democratic Party. I recently saw somebody that tweeted out that said, the Democrats getting mad at leftists for not voting in the Democratic Party is like the meat industry getting mad at vegans for not buying meat. It's like they have nothing to sell us. And that was such a great way to put it, I think. It's just like these people have nothing to sell us, but we're being told that it's our fault if we don't vote for them. I'm sorry, but as a a socialist, I'm a straight up socialist. I believe in what people call now democratic socialism. Yeah. I don't know why that word sounds funny to me right now. Sorry, but democratic socialism. But I believe in workplace democracy. I believe in democracy and all the institutions that we are forced to exist within. I want democracy in those institutions, one person, one vote on all major decisions, how to work, what to produce, where to produce it, what to do with the profits of your labor. I want everybody to get a vote on that. And I think that's the democracy that we need. That's real democracy. And that's the democracy that we need to build. That's what this channel is about. And that's what this company that's being built here, this cooperative really that's being built here. If you're a subscriber to, if you're contributing on Patreon, you're helping to build workplace democracy. And trust me on that. Like this, I'm deeply committed to those principles. And that is my goal, is to build a democratic workplace. I'm going to need to bring in a producer to make this show better. They will have democracy in the workplace. We will work democratically to build this platform. And I will try to include the community in that as much as possible, because real democracy should include all stakeholders. So all the people that are affected by something should have a say in it. And so I want to bring the whole community in as much as I can and try to build democracy into this platform as much as possible. And so, but that's what I believe in. I'm a socialist, and I don't feel like this party, they call it a big tent, but I think that they want to kick us out of this tent. They don't want us in here. Historically, neoliberalism, they are much more comfortable with fascists than they are with socialists. So let's just be real. They historically, history has proven this out. They will much rather, lend themselves to at least, being less resistant to fascism than they are to socialism. They fight that much harder. They fight socialism much harder. I'm not saying that neoliberals are fascist or liberals are fascist. Not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that they are more comfortable with, they are less resistant to fascists than they are to socialists. So, and that's just history. History just bears that out. So, yeah, we got Nina Turner snubbed. Even AOC, who said that she would vote for Joe Biden no matter what. She said she would vote blue no matter who, and still she only gets a 60 seconds. She called Nancy Pelosi Mama Bear, and all these. She has tried to position herself as this the pragmatic leftist that wants to work within the structure, to try to work within the structure, and she plays nice with these people to a certain extent, and all of that playing nice with them gets her very little, gets her, these ornamental positions on a task force that goes nowhere, no real power in this administration. And so let's just be real with ourselves and see what this is when the DNC does this. This is the Democratic Party spitting in the face of progressives, in leftists, really. Let me say they're spitting in the face of leftists. I honestly believe they're spitting in the face of progressives. Even if you're progressive, they don't want progressives here. They, you don't have to be a avowed leftist. Honestly, you can be globally centrist and be a progressive in the US, even if you're considered centrist globally. And so let me hop over to some comments, because I've seen comments coming in for a while now, and I'm trying to do these segments, and I keep on switching up my format a bit, folks. And there's going to be a lot of stuff like this where I'm just trying different formats on. And what I'm trying to do is present stories and then get to the comments after each story sort of gets presented, and I give my initial thoughts. I need to learn to be more concise, I know, and I will work to be more concise so that these episodes are shorter and the point can still be made, but in fewer words, and I will work on that, folks. But in the meantime, so that's what my goal with this episode, you know, do a story and then get to some comments and then we'll jump to the next story. I'm trying to keep this under 2 hours, probably not going to happen. So it's going to be like an under 3 hours kind of thing, because I'm hoping to stream again tonight, but I'm going to just try to get through at least 3 or 4 stories. I got about like 10 to 15 stories that I want to get to in total, but I know that's at least 2 episodes, possibly 3. So we'll get to as much as we can and, you know, try to get to some discussion, some community feedback, and just hear from the comrades. So let's take a look. Oh, Mark McKeever says, congratulations on 100 subs. Yes, nice, awesome. Yes, that's I'm gonna knock stuff down. See, I'm just gonna break stuff in here. All right, so that's awesome. Thank you so much to everyone, to my first 100 subscribers. You all are amazing. Thank you so much for just, you know, caring enough, believing in this channel enough to join, to subscribe, even, you know, with my annoying voice and just, you know, all my, I appreciate y'all. I just appreciate y'all. And that's really, really dope. That is really awesome. Thank you so much. Kwame also says 100 subs. Yes, thank you. That is awesome. And Mark McKeever also says, you know, hashtag race to 200. And that is, yes, we are absolutely on the race to 200. I mentioned it earlier and I'll mention it just again. I have this possible idea. If you watch towards the beginning of the stream, I talked about it, an idea to potentially merge this channel with another channel that I used to make and manage. It was a cannabis growing channel, and I did all the work to like do a bunch of videos on just like, it's just about cannabis growing tutorials and like a grow journal sort of. And so it gets a good amount of, it has almost 1,000 subscribers on it. It's really close to 1,000 subscribers, like 990 subscribers on it. And it's close to I think it's maybe capable of monetization, like, so that I could enable the super chat feature in there if I were to use that channel instead. And so but what I would want in really need, what I want is I would need the community to follow me over there. All the subscribers now to go over there and then to subscribe to that channel. I would, rebrand that channel as Radical Democracy, and I would upload all my videos onto it and then start to upload videos there instead. And, with the community moving over, it would put it over 1,000 subscribers. And, it could just, it's already a channel that I used to manage. It's my channel. I have it's totally a like legal, and, it's all of a totally okay thing from YouTube's platform perspective. And it's really just like how the community feels about it. Are folks willing to subscribe over on that channel and start to, use that? You're just going to have to resubscribe over there. And then I'll re-upload all the videos that I did onto that channel. And I'll probably leave this channel running for a little bit, just like not doing anything to it, and leave the videos up for a while, maybe unlist them possibly, so that the other videos get, priority if somebody searches for them or anything like that. And I'll, update the Patreon so that it links to that channel instead, all that sort of stuff. So if you let me know how you feel about it. The pros of it are that I can monetize sooner, meaning super chat feature enabled. I don't really care too much about ads. Let me know how you feel about ads. If you think it's worth it to do them. I mean, obviously I'm totally cool with anybody using ad blocker, because I get annoyed by ads too. Like, I have enabled them on YouTube in the past just to support, the channels, because I mostly watch leftist videos. So I'm cool with like letting a video run for a few seconds and then just like skipping that. I think they still get the ad revenue from that. So I at least do that. I have it enabled for YouTube. And so if you're cool with it, let me know how you feel about ads and me trying to do ad revenue. Honestly, right now I would only do it through that. I could do like something where like a majority report style, where like I take sponsorships from different like products that I actually would like use myself and respect in some way. But I would try, I suppose, to do more like with worker cooperative type stuff. And I don't think those places have a lot of money and, or capable of having the funding for certain things. So I'd have to see if that's even how possible it is. Let me know what you think of that stuff, though. Let me know what you think, how you feel in the comments, in the chat, and I'll just go through and gather all that feedback and decide if it's the right move to make to move over there. But I am leaning that direction because I think it's like, why not? I have this other channel and why not use it? So just going through some more comments here. What Up America says, that's why we need Shahid Buttar. I think he's more willing to go to the mat and exert real pressure plus power than Bernie or AOC. I agree. I think he is the type he just has a more experience, honestly, to not to down any like AOC, but he has more experience, like more of a record of doing so already, I should say. And so he definitely he's pushing back against the most powerful Democrat. He's willing to challenge Nancy Pelosi, which is something that AOC hasn't shown an outright willingness to do, to challenge Nancy Pelosi, but he's literally challenging her in a primary. And so he absolutely is the type to speak up against these issues. And I think that he has a unique voice that he brings as well. And I do think that there's no, all of the squad has really bent the knee to Nancy Pelosi so far, and that's unfortunate to see. So I do think that Shahid Buttar, I think that Cori Bush might come in and be a little bit more, push back a little bit more about certain stuff. So I have some hope for Cori Bush. But yeah, I think that honestly, electoral politics just lends itself to the kind of person who's going to be, because you're trying to work within the system, it's really hard to do that. And these are your colleagues, and I get all that. So Bernie was a really he's a gem, and we have to recognize that's so unique. And even he had his downfall was being too friendly with Biden to attack him in a certain way and to draw definitive lines on policy issues between the two of them. And to call attention to his horrendous record, Joe Biden's horrendous record. So yes, I agree. Kwame says they'd sooner court conservatives than the left. Absolutely. Yeah, they absolutely would. Absolutely. That's the way that they've shown it. I mean, they literally did it. They just did it. No Nina Turner, no Breonna Joy Gray. That was Bernie Sanders' campaign press secretary, national press secretary, who, that's the kind of person that can speak, I mean, she's her job was to speak for him, and she's not a speaker there. And she's a great young Black progressive voice, young Black woman. And she was I know her through the Michael Brooks show, actually, and through being on the Michael Brooks show. That's where I first saw her, and then started reading some of her work. And then she became Bernie Sanders' national press secretary. So shout out to the impact of a Michael Brooks there too. Mark McKeever says, and shout out to Mark McKeever. If you were watching earlier, Mark gave you a shout out earlier. Thank you for being our newest Patreon subscriber. I missed that last week when we were actually streaming and you signed up on stream. So I apologize for not catching that. So thank you so much for the Patreon subscription. Shout out. Just thank you, Mark. Really deeply appreciate it. So thank you for making this channel possible. And Mark McKeever says, it's easier to tell the press that there's a committee for that than telling the masses no. Yes, exactly. They want to, this is just performative. And Kwame mentioned this as well. This is just performative garbage. It's just performative BS, performative BS per usual, as Kwame says. So absolutely, there's, these task forces were toothless, and we knew it. And so we got to recognize that and know it in advance, and don't fall for that trick, when they try to play it, and just be resistant to that kind of, pandering to the left when they're not giving us any substantive policy, there's no movement on actual substantive rights or policies. So no guarantees there. And honestly, the signs all point to more of what happened before right before we got Trump. And I honestly believe that the reaction to a Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, presidency through the, greatest depression in US history could lead to a reaction that is somebody even worse than Trump being elected. And yes, is such thing as people that are worse than Trump. There is Tucker Carlson, I believe, is worse than Trump, and Tom Cotton is worse than Trump. These are people who believe in the same things that Donald Trump believes in, but they're smarter than him. They're not morons. They're not dumb enough to say the quiet part out loud. So they'll do all the horrendous things, every horrendous thing that Donald Trump will do, except they'll do it smartly, smartly to them, but effectively, sadly, and they'll be effective in everything, all the horrendous policies that they push on Mike Pence, and his just deep rooted homophobia and his need to implement these evangelistic policies and Puritan politics on the rest of us. And so we have to be wary of this and acknowledge it and recognize that in advance, because this Biden-Harris presidency is looking and shaping up to be something horrendous, and it's going to be, because they resist, even in the midst of a global pandemic, when 50 million people get thrown out of their jobs and thrown off of their health care in the middle of a global pandemic. And to say that you then still support employer-based health care, private insurance, that you still support employer-based private insurance, even in the wake of that, and you can't even nominally, he's not even willing to pander and say Joe Biden or Kamala Harris for that matter, but Joe Biden especially is not even willing to pander to the left and say, oh yeah, maybe that's a policy we'd entertain, Medicare for all. Maybe we shouldn't have employer-based private health insurance. He's not even willing to, even nominally, just to say those words. He's not even willing to say those words leading up to an election, when that would definitely play well for votes. That would definitely garner him more votes. It would bring in younger voters. It would gain him support from the left. And there's absolutely more of a base on the left than there is Republicans that are going to cross over party lines to go vote for Joe Biden. So there's much more of us on the left that we're looking for some excuse to vote for Joe Biden, and just have not been able to find any. And so it's just more, they've clearly they're spitting in the face of the left, and we got to recognize that and realize what is the likely outcome of a Joe Biden, Kamala Harris presidency, and try to not, there's a great voice online who I follow. His name is Roderick Douglas, and follow him on Facebook. And he's a Black activist, leftist. And he made a comment recently that I just love this quote, but he said, voting is not harm reduction, it's harm deferment with interest. So voting is not harm reduction, it's harm deferment with interest. So we are oftentimes deferring harm when we vote, and it comes with interest. We have to pay it back with interest. Before, we deferred harm. After George Bush, we tried to defer some harm with Obama, right? And then what do we get? Donald Trump, right? So we might try to defer harm with a Kamala Harris and a Joe Biden. We're going to try to defer harm there, and we're going to see what the reaction to that is. I don't know for sure. All I know is that I know what the reaction, I'm very confident in what the reaction to a Bernie Sanders presidency would have been. And it would have been, he would have been the next FDR. He really would have been. He would have been as popular as an FDR. Remember, FDR is the president that actually brought us in the midst of a crisis and an economic depression. FDR gave us things like Social Security. And he did, let me say, it wasn't just FDR. It was FDR who finally, signed on to that legislation, but it was the grassroots unionists, communist, socialist. That is the collective of people that were able to push FDR. Trade unionists, communists, and socialists were able to push FDR and say, listen, it's either the pitchforks or it's these policies. And so, and he was able to, he was a willing participant in that and was able to be moved left, and he gave us things like Social Security. Now, these policies were often implemented in the most racist way, so that Black people were left out of all of this, economic upturn. But that's, that's and women and we're also, systematically left out of that in a lot of ways. But obviously white women were going to get a little bit more of the favor through just their whiteness. And so there's just that. So Social Security, federal, he proposed a federal jobs program, unemployment insurance, GI Bill. So that all came out of the FDR presidency. And I think that that's what would have came out of a Bernie Sanders presidency, would have been more progressive policies that actually met the moment. A Medicare for all, I think we really could have gotten under Bernie Sanders. And once you get those universal programs, those aren't going away. I mean, we could have pushed Bernie Sanders for something like a UBI. I don't know. He was too resistant to it, but there's a chance. We had a chance of something like a UBI, which again, the moment just shows the need for things like that. And I wasn't even a huge supporter of UBI because we could talk about UBI for a whole episode and talk about, there's a lot of good that can come out of a UBI. There's also some things we need to recognize. A UBI under a capitalist system is going to flow, still going to keep money flowing into the hands of capitalists who will use that to exploit and oppress working class people. So don't be, overly fooled by that. Yes, it can help put a bottom there and help uplift a lot of folks at the bottom, but they will still find ways to exploit that money. Without things like rent controls in place, it will go to landlords largely. Over time, they'll just fight to take it back from us in every way they can. So just these things, we already have proof of those things happening. There are universal basic incomes in some place. 50 years in Alaska, they have a universal basic income. So they do these experiments, and the capitalists will fight to undo any kind of advancement that you make like that. And that's why you have to get rid of the capitalists. You have to dismantle capitalism, which means replacing the capitalist system with a socialist system being democratic, democratic workplaces, one person, one vote, no employer-employee relationship. Everyone is a, worker in a cooperative. It's just like, we're all comrades. We're all workers in this cooperative. We're all both, technically employers and employees. But we're all, every single person holds both of those titles. So there's not this constant conflict between the two. In every other system, and I've just started reading the Communist Manifesto, and that's been actually giving me a lot of hope and, just like more positive outlook on things. And they, talk about how, I just lost my train of thought on that. I apologize. Sorry, I just looked over at the comments and just quickly lost my train of thought. So I apologize, folks. If I think about that again, I'll come back to it. Clearly I smoked too much cannabis. Sorry, y'all. Alrighty. So, we're going to get to the next story soon. Thank you so much to all the folks shouting out the 100 subs. That is awesome. That was, I was hoping to make it there on the stream, and we did. So thank you so much. That's really, really awesome. And I'm really excited. And so 100 subs is huge. It's a major milestone. 100 today, 1,000, next month, and then 10, and then 100. And we'll get there when we'll grow this channel, we'll grow this community, and we can build power through that, because I honestly, this is going to be a democratic workplace. It will be built up democratically. It will, I hope to incorporate community feedback into it as much as possible. And then anyone that works here will be working in a democratic workplace. So that's my way of trying to fight and resist the capitalist system, is by building a socialist enterprise within it. And this is how it happened under feudalism. Oh, that was the point that I was making, was that, sorry, about the systems that came before us. It's like there was always a system, there was always a tension, in the system. Sorry to go back to that, y'all. When I clip this, I'll clip out all that other part. But yes, there's always been this tension between employer-employee, or master-slave, or lord and serf, and so there's always been some sort of tension there in our economic system. Somebody that is doing the work, there's people that they're laboring and doing the labor, and then there's always been some set of people that are not laboring, and they are somehow extracting the wealth of these people that are actually doing the labor, and so extracting the surplus of that labor. And so there's always been this tension, and I'd like to, I believe, and this is based on folks like economist Richard Wolff and Cornel West, David Harvey, and those economists and historians that believe that we need to move towards a radical democracy in the workplace, democracy in our housing, just so that we can actually build, have that control over our own lives, and we won't have to like fight the capitalists to and leave them in power. Because if we leave the capitalists in power, Richard Wolff says, they'll just come back and they'll slowly fight and chip away at all the policy advances that we make. So we can make all these like social democratic advances that we want to make and provide Medicare for all and all these large government regulated programs, but history has just proven time and time again that the capitalists will come back. If we leave the capitalists with the power of economic power, then they will come back and they will undo everything that we do. And the only way to really get rid of them is by building socialist enterprises, building democracy in our workplace, fighting for democracy in our housing through tenant unions and eventually tenant ownership. Really, it should be the outright goal: tenant, ownership and control, really. So worker self-directed enterprises for the workplace. Just flip through a few more comments. Ben 2K says Ellen is going to dance with Trump in 3 years. Trust me. Yeah, right. Like, seriously. I mean, look how long it took George W. Bush, who committed war crimes in Iraq and Afghanistan. And, so these war criminals, and let's be real, Obama was a war criminal. Like, these are war criminals. And Trump is a war criminal, and these war criminals just get rehabilitated in the public eye. It only takes a couple of election cycles, and all of a sudden they just give us something worse than Trump. And trust me, there is something worse than Trump out there. There absolutely is, because there's people that think as horribly as he thinks, but then they're not dumb. They're not morons. They don't say the quiet part out loud, and they can actually be effective in their policy making. And so there is stuff worse than Trump out there. And so something worse than Trump will come, and then all of a sudden they'll be, Trump will be this funny, he's, because he's charismatic. And so he's much more charismatic even than a George W. Bush. And they'll be out there, singing and dancing and rehabilitating Donald Trump in just a few years, when there's something worse, and they'll be threatening. And they constantly do this under the threat of, like, they keep on threatening us. Under George Bush, they told us the same thing. It's so, these Republicans are so terrible. They're so horrible. We have to go with the safe choice, the neoliberal. You got to back them. You got to support them. There's no room for any error. We can't risk anything. These Republicans are so terrible. And so we get an Obama, 8 years of that. And then look at the backlash to that. We get a Donald Trump. We get Donald Trump. And so let's not go back to where we were right before we got to Donald Trump. And so, but that's what a lot of people are, begging for at this point because of 4 years of Trump. But I worry that there's a lot worse on the horizon in response to more neoliberal failure. And there will be nothing but neoliberal failure for the next 4 years if Biden and Harris win. And that is sadly a big if at this point. According to recent polling, the race is tightening between Trump and, Trump, Pence first, Biden, Harris, particularly since Harris came onto the ticket. Polling has tightened between them, particularly in battleground states. In battleground states, they did like 15 battleground states, and Trump and Biden are one point apart. It was Biden 49, Trump 48 in a 15 battleground states. That's 15 key states. And you're talking about 1 point of difference in the midst of economic recession and, mass, unemployment and a pandemic, and still 1 point difference. So that's what we're dealing with here. So Mark McKeever says the DNC is so confident about winning 2020 that the Kamala pick is all about 2024 and keeping AOC/progressives at bay. I could not agree more. Great point by Mark McKeever there. This is just a they're being very overconfident right now. And this is just, it's harkening back to the Hillary 2016 to me. It just is starting to feel, there's so many of these signs. It's really feeling like Hillary 2016 right now to me, where it's like the overconfidence from the Democratic Party, because we just feel like it's all wrapped up. I just saw recent, the 538 numbers that came out. They do the likelihood, projections. They do all these models and they try to predict what the outcomes of either one person winning. And right now it's 71% to Biden versus 29% Trump. And that is exactly the numbers that it was the day before the election with Hillary Clinton. And this is now, in mind you, Hillary Clinton lost. And now we're still 3 months out. There's still 3 months. And I'm pretty damn confident that within the next 3 months, there's going to be some sort of economic stimulus, like what Trump's recent executive orders pretty much did nothing. Those aren't being implemented by and large. We'll talk about that in a story later, not in this episode, but in the next episode. And but he will likely sign off on some sort of economic stimulus, some extension of the unemployment benefits, some second stimulus check. And when that happens, his numbers are only going to increase. And so people have to just be wary of this. This is not locked up and in the bag yet. And them doing things like, looking overconfident right now at this stage is just really silly, given what we just experienced in 2016. And they did the same thing with the picking a anti-progressive, spitting in the face of the progressive wing of the party. Hillary did it with the Tim Kaine vice presidential pick. Now Joe Biden does it with the Kamala Harris vice presidential pick. It's really, it's got just 2016 vibes all over it. And so I'm more nervous than ever about this. So Ben 2K says, yeah, a moderate versus Trump. Why not? Why not? Worked in 2016 too, right? Like, it's like hashtag sarcasm. Of course, it's like, they're running the same playbook again and again. And I know it's not a real Einstein quote, but there's that quote, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And they keep on doing the same damn thing over and over again and expecting some different results. And I mean, Biden has a real chance to win because Trump has done so poorly on the economic stimulus and handling the pandemic and just exacerbating this Great Depression. And so it's Trump's to lose, but that's just sad. That's sad. They're doing the same hide Biden playbook, just keep him away. Most of Biden's support is the vote. They polled on this. It was over 50% are voting. It was 6 in 10 people. 6 in 10 people are voting against Trump for Biden. So they're voting against Trump, whereas 75% of Trump supporters are voting for. It's an affirmative vote for Donald Trump. So you got, Donald Trump supporters are voting for him because they believe in him, at least. I mean, we can talk about what they believe in and how, whatever, but they believe in him. And we let's be real about that. And they're enthusiastic about him. And those stats matter. And they proved themselves to matter in 2016. And so enthusiasm matters. And these people are enthusiastically and affirmatively voting for Donald Trump, whereas for Joe Biden, 6 in 10, 60% of people are not. That they're just voting against Donald Trump. And so if Donald Trump isn't doing too terribly and he's not that awful, do all those people really come out? That's a very weak base right there. And so that's why I'm so angry with the Democratic Party, because they did this. They did everything they can to take down Bernie Sanders, because they would rather lose with a centrist than win with a progressive. And so they would they'd rather lose with Joe Biden than to win with Bernie Sanders. And they proved it, and they showed their willingness to do so. And here we are. So, and Ben 2K makes another great point. Hillary gave more to the left in 2016 than Biden does now. That is another point. And I got to get into some of these other stories because, these are things I want to bring up too, for sure. Absolutely. Hillary has given more to the left in than what Biden has. In just look at Medicare for all, for instance, right? Like Hillary was willing to lower the Medicare age to 55 on her platform. Joe Biden is only willing to lower it to 60. So, I mean, it's just, he's given nothing to the left. In fact, the Democratic Party platform, they rejected Medicare for All, Green New Deal. I know a lot of folks. I know a delegate that was a Bernie Sanders delegate who voted for, voted against the party platform. Also, I don't know if you saw the DNC shenanigans. I should have talked about this in the last story, but I don't know if y'all saw that crazy DNC shenanigans where the DNC, or at the Democratic National Convention, they did the voting, and in the electoral votes, Bernie lost California and Nevada, even though he won those states and should have still been given, he should still be given the electoral votes for those states. They didn't. The thing is a sham. Like, they didn't even vote for the candidate that their citizens voted to elect. They went and they voted not with the will of their own citizens. And they did that, just to go against a progressive, and it meant nothing. It was meaningless. I mean, Biden, for all the other states, he was guaranteed to get the nomination. There was absolutely no reason for them to do that. But they went, and those delegates that should have been pledged to Bernie Sanders instead went and voted for Joe Biden. And so that's not democracy, people. This is not democracy. That's not how democracy works. That is not democracy. We would be pissed off if that ever happened. If a Democrat won an election, but the Republican, the Electoral College came in and voted for the Republican, even though the voters had cast more votes in that state. We're talking now individual states within the Electoral College. If they came in and voted against the will of the people, come on, we would be up in arms. But the DNC, the Democratic Party, just did that. The so-called Democratic Party, Democratic, my ass, party just did one of the most undemocratic things I've ever seen, and just completely snubbed Bernie Sanders on the votes that he had earned. He earned those damn votes, and those people who voted in those states were not represented. And those were disproportionately, like in Nevada, that was disproportionately Latino voters. And that's another point that needs to be made. And I got to get to the next story, to talk about, and we're going to talk about a Joe Biden ad, but like, and I can bring this up then too, but like, he has done so much to spit in the face of the Latinos in this country, and to try to, do nothing to concede to the Latino vote because let's be real, obviously it's a diverse vote, everything just like every other vote, but there's a progressive, strong progressive wing of the Latino vote, and those voters just got completely snubbed by Joe Biden. And he literally hired a Republican operative, Ana Navarro, to run his Latino outreach campaign instead of Bernie Sanders outreach, campaign manager, who also was doing his Latino outreach, which was the most success. Like, he actually increased the turnout in Iowa, Nevada, and New Hampshire for the Latino turnout, and really impressively in Nevada. And so it would only make sense to hire somebody that was successful, but they didn't. They hired a Republican instead. So, all right, sorry. Let's get through a few more comments here, and then we'll get to the next story. Ben 2K says, I like the comment on stream feature a lot. Awesome. Yes. Ben 2K says that he subbed. Oh, wow. Ben 2K wasn't subbed. Okay. You subbed to something else. Okay. Greener Thumbs. Okay. Nice. Okay. So folks are talking about the other channel. All right. Yeah. Thank you. You can go sub. The other channel is called Greener Thumbs right now, and it'll get converted over to Radical Democracy. So it's called Greener Thumbs, GREENER Thumbs, THUMBS. So if you're just listening, and you can check that out on YouTube and subscribe now. And then that channel's I'll start uploading some of my videos, and I would likely convert to that channel. So, all right. Thank you for saying that, Ben. That's actually a great point. You don't have to wait until I do all the conversion stuff. You can sub to that channel now. I'm not going to upload any new videos until it's the podcast stuff. So you will get notifications about the podcast videos getting uploaded. Sorry about that if that's annoying. Ben says, I'm gonna tweet out the stream real quick. I'm gonna tweet the stream out real quick. Thank you, Ben. Please, to everyone, tweet this out, share on social media. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Hit that like button below. If you're watching this on your phone, just close the chat out, hit the like button. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. You better be subscribed. We just passed 100 subscribers in this stream, and now we're climbing to 200. So please help out, and if you can, do me that one small favor of please subscribing to the channel. If it's not too annoying, hit the bell right next to that subscribe button to receive notifications. Just hit the bell and choose all to get all notifications whenever we go live or release a new video. So thank you so much. And make sure when you see those notifications, check them out. Just click into the video, hit that like button. It pleases the YouTube gods. And so please do me that favor and help the channel grow by doing that to just please the algorithm and help more eyes get on it, because the more people click through on the videos, that's what tells it to try to recommend the video to more people. So there's more people will see the video, the more people that actually click through on the video when they see those notifications come up. So thank you for doing that. And if you can do me a huge favor and head over to my Patreon, if you can afford a few dollars a month, cost of a cup of coffee a month, as they say over on Status Quo, you can support this channel and help it to grow and just continue to exist. Honestly, I could tell you about, I got a little bad news recently. I wanted to go to school next semester, but I was denied financial aid. Unfortunately, I made too much money 2 years ago, even though I only worked like half a year. And so I got denied financial aid, and I just don't think that I'm going to be able to afford next semester to go to school. So I'm not going to be able to attend school. So I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to be not have to, but I'm going to be doing this podcast pretty much full time. And then, might have to start working at the end of that. But depending on how fast we can grow this channel and build up that Patreon subscriber base, then it could be self-sustaining enough that I don't have to go and, find some other work and pull my time away from the channel. If we get to, I would need at least probably $500 monthly by the end of the year. At least that's scraping by. I'll end up, I'll have to do be real, like food stamps. We should destigmatize it. It's nothing to be ashamed of. I have to do something like that, and then just scraping by with the $500 a month. It's not much to just survive on, but I could try to make it happen. So we need more than that. The more the better, and I hope to eventually grow it to that point. And if it doesn't grow to that point, that's fine. I'll still try to do as much as possible to keep doing this, because I do enjoy doing this and want to. This is my way of contributing to the left movement and the socialist movement and democracy and the workplace movement. And so that's my goal here. And I'm going to keep on pushing for that goal, keep trying to make that happen. So please head over to my Patreon if you can afford a few dollars a month, patreon.com/radical democracy. There's a link in the description box below, but it's patreon.com/radical democracy. And it just, it really does. It keeps this thing going and growing. So thank you so much to everyone all my current patrons and anyone else who signs up. I will keep an eye on it and see if we're getting any new patrons and shout you out. And we'll do, I'll shout out all patrons, all new patrons. We did a shout out to Mark McKeever earlier, one of our, commenters, frequent commenters who subscribed on Patreon. Thank you so much, Mark. Really, 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 really appreciate it. Okay. So I want to see more likes on this video, though. I see that 35 people have come through here, and I only got 8 likes on the video that I can see right now. So please keep liking this video. If you haven't already, I need you to do me that favor and like this video. Please subscribe, and comment, share, please. Love you all. Appreciate it. Okay, a couple more comments here, and then we get to it. So Dave DeCenzo, shout out to my brother Dave. What do people think happened right before Trump? Yes, he is the one who made this great point to me, and I want to give him full credit for that, because that was just, he put it in a way that my brain, I can't even put it that way. It's too quick and witty for myself. But essentially it's like, we don't want to go back to, what do you think happened before Trump? So we don't want to go back to what it was like right before Trump. And that's what a Kamala Harris, Joe Biden presidency looks like to me, at least. And that's the unfortunate thing that I'm faced with right now. X says it matters. Let's see. Just gonna read a few more comments because Ben 2K says, have you watched the first DNC Convo days? I saw a clip with a prayer. Why do you do this? That's crazy. Are they praying at the DNC? Like, talk about what the hell about separation of church and state? Are they seriously out here praying at the DNC? Like, this is gross, and we should reject this on the left. That is not leftist. That is not a left-wing, mentality right there, to be out here praying. I'm sorry. I respect all religion. I respect all cultures. I respect everybody's right to choose their religion and to practice that religion. And I'm totally supportive of that. However, I think it has no place in our politics, zero place whatsoever. And so I am, absolutely secular and believe in a strong secular nation. And so secular just being a separation of church and state, essentially separation of politics and religion. So that's what I thought we had that in this country. Apparently not, because we're praying at the DNC. Like, that's absurd. That's ridiculous. And it's also, it's just like, what about atheists? What about people that aren't in that religion? Like, I'm sorry, but it's just, are we going to do every single religions thing and then do a atheist rant at the end of it? Like, it's just not fair and equal. And that's not equality, or, that it's just really off-putting to me to be out here praying at the DNC. So that's wild. And I can only watch very little bit of the DNC. It's just hard to watch. It's so bad. So Ben 2K says, shouldn't religion of any kind in politics be strictly separate? Like, absolutely. That's what I thought, but apparently not. Apparently that's not what we're doing here in the Democratic Party. And I shouldn't say we with them anymore. I'm not a member of the Democratic Party. I am an independent. I, exited the Democratic Party back in 2017. And I got back into it because I was thinking about running for some sort of public office here in Massachusetts and Congress, to be honest. But I'm a nobody, and the system is set up against working class nobodies to be able to actually compete in things like that. But I think it's changing a little bit at a time, slowly but surely. So definitely encouraged by things like Cori Bush's win and folks like that. And, who knows, maybe someday. Unfortunately, I'm very discouraged by things like what I see happening, the reaction to folks like Alex Morris initially and Shahid Buttar, even Hussein Lecky. And to some extent, I think that we have to fix some of our puritanistic politics on the left and start to figure out, drawing a clear distinction, as Michael Brooks said, between program and rhetoric, and, substantive human rights and rhetoric, and people fighting for that, and just recognizing that people aren't going to be perfect. If we really believe in redemption on the left, then we have to give people some room to redeem themselves. And so I think that, showing some sort of form of restorative justice, or going through some sort of process like that, people should be able to redeem themselves eventually by fighting on the right side of the issues for long enough. I think that should redeem them and warrant our support of these folks, if we're really about building a strong left. Otherwise, we can keep on being a subculture and being this fringe, powerless structure that never goes anywhere if we're not willing to recognize, again, the distinction between program and rhetoric, and understand that some people might have rhetoric that doesn't exactly fit with what we believe in, and maybe it upsets us or it hurts our feelings personally, but we can't put our personal feelings above a movement, and just recognizing where that's happening. And I think in the outrage against Shahid Buttar with those allegations, and then with the initial response to Alex Morris, who's been vindicated since, and we'll talk about that soon, I think that it just shows that on the left, we have a problem here, and we have to fix that and clean that up, or else it's going to still push more good candidates out of the running, because people just won't run because they're scared to have the same thing happen to them. And I'm certainly one of those people. Not that I'm anybody, or that me running matters, but I'm sure there are other people who are good candidates, great candidates, who could run, who won't, because of they know that they made one mistake in their past, and even though they tried to atone for that through their actions, the left has shown in some cases, in some prominent cases, to be weak on this issue and willing to cannibalize ourselves on this issue. And so we'll get into that more. Let me keep pushing ahead. No Name says, vote for piece of shit Biden, even if you hate his guts like I do, because Trump is an absolute monster. So we'll talk about this more. I should save this because let's do that segment. Okay, so I'm just gonna pull forward with that, and I will, so that we can discuss this. So I'm gonna jump this a little bit ahead. And okay, so this will be something that I'm going to try out as well as like a new format thing, but I've gotten some comments, and I think I'd like to highlight some of the community comments sometimes when there's just a good comment, either from just someone in the comment thread in the chat. We do it during the live chat all the time, try to highlight these comments and lift up the voices of folks in the community. And I want to try to do that as a regular segment in the show. Whenever I see a comment that I'd like to respond to, I might not have all the time to write back to necessarily, but it's something that I think might spark some good discussion here on the left. I'd like to highlight it and bring it to the forefront and try to garner more discussion around it. And so I recently got a comment, and I'm going to try. Let me see if I can pull this up. I'm not sure that I can pull this comment up or not, but we're going to find out real quick. I do not think I'm able to pull up an image. I can do my entire screen, but that's really hard. That's too weird. Okay, sorry, y'all. Just a little technical difficulties as we do this. Just new approach here. So I want to. I'll probably just edit this in post. So I'll just edit this in post probably. Oh, you know what? I think I can. Hold on 1 second. Give me 1 second, folks. I just want to pull this up. Okay. This is a little weird. I'll see. We'll see. All right. So we got this comment from a member of the community recently on the video about, it was a video about the U.S. Postal Service, what they're calling the Friday Night Massacre. Ken Donsky was the original commenter, left a comment, and then this was a response to that. And I thought that it just raised a good point, and I wanted to, there was a lot of discussion around it. And so I just wanted to weigh in a little bit and also just open it up to hopefully hear from even more folks about this topic. So Skeptical Mantis commented and said, do elections even matter at this point? Do we really have any democracy? We need a new way to struggle. Voting is a distraction, in my opinion. And so I thought that this was a very interesting comment. Thank you for leaving the comment there, Skeptical Mantis. If folks feel uncomfortable about me sharing these comments like this, please let me know. This is a weird look for the thing, and I know I'm pulling it up in like my preview window right now. So sorry, y'all. It's, this is what we'll fix by growing and, over time. So sorry for the ugliness here, but. So Skeptical Mantis poses this question, do elections even matter at this point was the first point. And do we really have any democracy? And then just comments that we need a new way to struggle. So I wanted to comment on this and also just hear your feedback. And since that discussion is already sort of happening in our live stream chat today, it seems like an appropriate time. So if you have any thoughts on this and you haven't already weighed in and you'd like to share some thoughts, please share some thoughts in the chat or in the comments below, and I read all the comments and I'll read everything in the chat, and maybe we can highlight some of those comments. But what I wanted to say on this was a few things, really. So in responding to the first issue, do elections even matter? And again, read the comment thread itself. I'll leave a link to the comment thread in the description box below. I didn't do it now, but I will leave that link. I do have it ready, and I'll drop a link to it. Maybe I can draw. I don't want to link you out of this chat right now, though. So out of this video. So I'll drop a link in the description box after. But so on the question of do elections even matter at this point? I think, as with anything, it's a nuanced issue, and I don't think there's a yes/no answer on this, to be honest, sadly. I guess you could say yes, if I had to pick a yes/no answer on this, my answer is yes, but my caveat is that they don't always matter. They often, unfortunately, don't typically matter as much as all the airtime, the media attention, the money that goes into it, and the energy that activists spend on it. It's not always proportional to that, I believe. It often isn't proportional to that. I think it's disproportionately, like, the media covers it and it's given a lot of weight, but I don't think that it has as much weight as it's given in society. Unfortunately, not because of anything inherently wrong with elections, but it's the system that we've developed around our elections in the US in particular. But I think that this is an issue in any capitalist society, that elections are ultimately going to take some shape like this, where essentially, and this gets into the second question, do we really have any democracy? I think the answer to that is, once again, if I have to be forced to make a yes/no, do we have any democracy? Yes, I believe we have some democracy. I think it's very little democracy. I think what we mostly have, by and large, is oligarchy. We have a handful of people with the moneyed interests, the people that with the wealthy folks that are actually able to influence policy, and oftentimes are the people that are being elected. These are rich people that we elect to Congress oftentimes, the Dianne Feinsteins and Nancy Pelosi's and Joe Kennedy's, and these are lots of folks that are independently wealthy folks often, that, or better off folks that are being chosen to lead what is considered a working class party. And so I think that we largely see, especially at the in the national, and the bigger the election, I think the more prone to oligarchy it is. But I think that we have lots of oligarchy locally, and just if you look in local, there's all these different machine politics. AOC went up against a machine of like Joe Crowley in the Bronx, Democratic Party machine. There are lots of machine politics. Cori Bush had to fight against a machine of like the Lacey, their regime. Essentially, they had a dynasty, a 50-year dynasty, for him and his father had held that seat for 50 straight years. And so I think that, and there was a Princeton study on public policy that I mentioned before. Steve Alvarez, one of our Patreon patrons and commenters, just fellow comrade, shared a great clip with me from Represent Us, I believe, where they did this great YouTube video. I should have had it ready to share with y'all, but don't, unfortunately, where they talk about this issue and show that they highlight this Princeton study that showed that no matter, regardless of the public opinion on a policy, it did not change in any way the likelihood of that policy to either pass or fail becoming legislation. And so it was directly aligned with the public opinion of the wealthiest people in the country. So the top 1%, top 10%, the higher you go, the more aligned that the outcomes of our public policy are with their preferences. So they literally declared, we do not have a democracy in the US anymore. We have something much more akin to oligarchy. And so we have to reckon with that and be aware of that. But I do think that every once in a while they slip up. The system isn't perfect. And they'll slip up and they'll let a little democracy happen by accident. A little democracy will happen over here. A little democracy might happen over here. We get an AOC in, or a grassroots candidate who's funded by not funded by, corporations and super PACs, but funded by just grassroots folks contributing a few dollars each into a movement. We came so close with Bernie Sanders. We really did. We came really close. But there's, I voted in the Suffolk County, Massachusetts for a district attorney who is the most progressive district attorney we've ever had in the district. That's the same county where like Boston, Massachusetts is. And her name is Rachel Rollins. And she's a great DA. Her policies directly impacted me when I was dragged through our like racist criminal justice system, about a year ago. And her policies directly affected me, but I saw them, I witnessed them directly affecting other people as well while I was there in court, and just seeing her things like refusing to lock people up on like cash bail for nonviolent crimes. And so there is definitely, I would say that voting matters in the sense that, yes, there's oftentimes consequences of voting. Noam Chomsky talks about this, that throughout history, voting has had consequences. If there will be different consequences, I say, for a Joe Biden presidency versus a Donald Trump presidency. And I think that once they make the distinction between the two candidates so narrow, I think it's really hard to say that particular election matters, right? So like if there's barely any difference between the two candidates that you have actually available to vote for, oftentimes it's only two candidates, then I don't think that those elections matter all that much. I think that there's the impact, the difference that's going to happen is minimal. And for a lot of people, I think that the Biden over Trump pick is about a personal comfort, to be honest. That's just my perspective. So, argue with me if you think I'm wrong. Please leave your comments, your thoughts in the comments, or in the chat, and let me know how you feel about that. But I just think that it's about a personal comfort and wanting to go back to what Martin Luther King describes as a negative peace, which is just the absence of tension, versus necessarily achieving a positive peace, which is a presence of justice. I'm not saying those people are against it. I just think that they're thinking in this for this short-term harm reduction sort of mindset, and where I think that somebody like Roderick Douglas is correct in noting that what he believes is, not short-term harm reduction, but rather short-term harm deferment. And it's with interest, where that harm is coming back, and it's going to have to be paid back with interest later. And so we have to start to maybe consider that, in what Cornel West has said recently, that maybe the Democratic Party is too far gone and there simply is not room for us here. And their recent moves at the DNC really highlight that they don't want us as a part of this party, and they don't want the left in this party. If they did, they would do anything at all to court us, but they do not do it, and they don't care about us on the left, and they're not going to bend to us. We're not going to be able to convince them or move them in our direction. We have no power right now, and we're going to have less power versus these people when they're in the presidency and they hold the power of the executive, when they hold executive power. So the idea that you can let them get into office and then you're going to push them, I think that's pie in the sky kind of stuff. Just not effective. It's, if we can't get them to move right now by at least being willing to withhold our vote. If we're not even willing to withhold our vote, that's it. There's a clip of what's his name? He goes on after Rachel Maddow, Lawrence O'Donnell on MSNBC. And there's this clip of him in the Ralph Nader documentary where he says, he's like, I worked for the Democratic Party. I was inside the Democratic Party. He was like, we did not give anything to the left, and we did not feel like we needed to give anything to the left, because what were they going to do? Vote for someone else? Who else were they going to vote for? We knew we had their vote. He was like, if you really want to build political power, you must be willing to withhold your vote. So unless you are willing to withhold your vote from these people, as soon as AOC gets on and she says, no matter who the Democratic nominee is, I'm going to vote blue no matter who. As soon as she does that, they no longer have to listen to AOC. And look what they did. She got 60 seconds in a pre-recorded, pre-approved, DNC pre-approved clip, because they don't care about the left, and they're not going to bend to our will in any way. If they won't bend now, they're not going to bend when they become the most powerful people in the country. That's just, I think you're wrong on that. And time will tell. Sorry if I'm too, aggressive on this point, but time will tell. And I want to be a place to unite the left, and I want this to be a space where the left can come together and we can have these debates out and not completely push each other away and say, you know, F off and I'm going to go over in my corner, you're going to go over in your corner. I really want us to have out these debates and realize and try to recognize the difficult situation that we're all being put in by these two capitalist parties who just don't care about working class people and aren't out to improve the lives of working class people in any substantive way. And so, but I do also believe in the inside-outside strategy that folks like Kyle Kalinske and, you know, even Cenk Uygur have talked about, and about, you know, fighting from inside outside. Bernie Sanders, I believe this was a part of the Bernie Sanders strategy, honestly, was this idea of this inside outside strategy. You got to have some politicians like the FDRs that are at least willing to bend to our will. And I don't think Joe Biden's that. Sorry, I just don't believe it. I just do not. He's already said he has no empathy for young people. He's got no empathy for our generation. So to think that he's going to go in there and have any concern about our needs or our demands is just, and I just think it's pie in the sky. And I can get, and again, I understand if you're saying, well, that's not what I'm voting for Biden for. I'm voting for Biden because I just think his rhetoric is so abhorrent. Or you can try to argue with me that you think his policies are so much more abhorrent than Donald Trump's. But I really would like to go through the record of Joe Biden and show how I don't think that they're all, I think that Joe Biden has arguably done more damage to black and brown people than Donald Trump. I mean, maybe just on the fact that Joe Biden has had a lot longer to do damage, but look at the 1984, Crime Commission Act that was then later revised in 86 to add mandatory minimums that Joe Biden supported, the 1994 crime bill that Joe Biden supported, the Iraq war that Joe Biden supported. These are all, his tough on crime policies, him supporting the Hyde Amendment that, didn't allow for funding to go to any hospitals or any legislation to go, federal funding to go to hospitals that perform abortions, so you couldn't have any kind of like federal funding in your bill if it went there. So it is, he's just had a history of supporting destructive policies. And so I just think it's not, I don't find it, I don't see him suddenly changing who he is when he becomes the most powerful person in the country and suddenly becoming a progressive. So on the sort of final point, and just reiterating something that I said earlier, but on this point that Skeptical Mantis made, at the end of his comment, he said, we need a new way to struggle. Voting is a distraction. So two things on that. First, the voting is a distraction. I don't think I think voting, the way that it's discussed in the media, yes, is absolutely made to be a distraction. We cannot spend all our time on the left on electoral politics. We can't spend all of our time fighting in that arena, because there is a real chance that there is no room within electoral politics as it stands today for us to gain any real power on the left and to actually get any substantive changes made by investing so much time into it. I still think you should go out and vote, right? Like I showed you earlier, right? I got my ballot, right? I got my ballot, right? I'm going to be voting in this upcoming primary. This is just for the primary ballot for Massachusetts. I'm going to be voting in the primary election. I'm also going to be voting in the general election. Like I'm going to be voting. I plan to vote for the Green Party candidate, Howie Hawkins, and Angela Walker, Black woman, progressives who actually believe in things like Medicare for all, Green New Deal, fighting for 15, legalizing cannabis. These are just like, they agree with us on all the policies. And also it's a chance to help them meet the 5% threshold of votes in order to get that party some power, so that we actually can have a third party challenge in this country. So if you live in a safe blue state and you're still voting for Biden, I personally think that if you're a leftist, I personally believe you're making a mistake. If you're in a safe blue state and you're voting for Biden, I think that you're making a mistake, because your vote is largely means nothing. Biden's gonna get, the Biden will get the electoral votes from Massachusetts. He will get the votes from, say, New York. Biden's going to get those votes. If you're in one of those states, I think you have the ability to vote for a third party as a leftist. You're not going to be impacted, and you also can vote for your values. You don't have to feel that gross feeling every time he does something terrible. You don't have to feel partially responsible for it. And you'll know that you may have given some power to a third party challenger. So to really build third party power in this country. So that's my case to be made for voting third party, is particularly if you're in a blue state or if you're in a red state. You know, if you're in a safe red state, if you're not in a swing state, you should vote for third party, in my opinion, because the election is going to be what it is, right? And your vote as a leftist isn't going to make that much of an impact. Honestly, we're not that big as much as we wish we were. Actual leftists, not, you know, social, like not like the centrist sort of like, you know, liberal, you know, social democrat, liberal, really liberals, not where they are. But if you're a real leftist, you're not, let's be real, you're not going to swing the election, sadly. So, and honestly, in my opinion, it's just not going to make that much of a difference if we go one way or the other. And maybe, just maybe, we don't empower Kamala Harris to then be, we don't get 12 years of neoliberalism, 4 years of Joe Biden, followed by 8 years of Kamala Harris, because whoever is the nominee for, if they're the vice president for the Democratic Party and the Democratic win, then that person is likely to be the Democratic nominee in 2024. So let's just be real. They're going to have an immense amount of power. And so we have to be wary of that and know we can either be facing, you know, down 4 years of neoliberalism when they fail to provide any real gains to working class people, and working class people will continue to suffer. People will continue to die without health insurance under the Affordable Care Act. You know, we have at least, you know, nearly 50,000 people dying without health insurance under the Affordable Care Act already. And it's only gotten worse because the legislation is weak enough that as soon as a Republican comes into power, they can damage that legislation. You give people universal health care, you cannot take back universal programs. Once universal programs are implemented, they are the hardest to undo. And so, because everybody gets a little taste of it. And so it's really hard to undo Social Security. It's really hard to undo Medicare. You can't undo those things. They've existed for, you know, 60, 70 years now. And they haven't been able, no Republican party or power, you know, or administration has been able to undo those programs, even though they would love to. They fight to do it every time, every chance they get. They try to fight against Social Security and Medicare, and they want to weaken it, and they do everything they can. But those programs have held on. Why? And withstood the test of time. Why? I believe because of their universality. And so all these means tested programs from like an Elizabeth Warren, I think that they're garbage. I think that they are just so they're great. Sure, they're better than what we have, but they will be weakened, and they will get us right back to the point that we already are. And so I can't support those things, knowing that it's just a short term, you know, harm deferment where it's going to come back to bite us later. And it's more time wasted where we could have actually fought and gotten spent the time fighting in these grassroots arenas. And my belief is like, fight for workplace democracy. That's the fight that we need to be having right now. Fight for it in every way you can. If it's unionizing, then unionize. That's the first step forward. But then it's really about building workplace democracy, fighting for one person, one vote for all workers. No more employer, employee, worker owned, worker self-directed enterprises where you come together and you vote together on what to do, how to do it, where to do that work, what tools to use for that work, and what you're going to do with the surplus of your labor, right? And so we build real democracy that way. We build power for a socialist movement that way. That's the new age 21st century socialism, democratic socialism, is building democracy in the workplace and then pushing that out into things like our housing and food industry and anything else, communication, transportation. We should have democracy in all of these. Democracy on any institution that manages what we consider to be a human right. You know, if health is a human right, if healthcare is a human right, if education is a human right, if housing is a human right, food security is a human right. If those things are human rights, then we should have some democratic say in the institutions that maintain those human rights for us. And so, you know, if having a job, if working, if having a dignified job is a human right, which I believe it is, and given this society, I believe that everybody should have a right to earn a dignified, living, then we should have democracy in that institution. So democracy in our workplace. And that's the place where most adults spend the majority of their waking hours. And so if we want to have real democracy in this country, we need democracy where we spend the most of our time. And so those are my thoughts on it. That's sort of my rough thoughts. That's not my fully fleshed out thoughts, but to sum that up, I do think that elections matter to some extent, not as much as the media makes them out to, not as much as the left is spending their time on them right now. I think we should all vote. I still think we should vote because your vote matters. It matters to get the better person elected. Noam Chomsky says it, there is a lesser of two evils sort of thing going on, but sometimes they're not really two evils. And let's not lose all nuance and make it sound like, everybody's the same. I'm voting for Ed Markey against Joe Kennedy. Joe Kennedy is really terrible and would be awful for this country. And he's all the terrible neoliberal, ideology wrapped up in this newer, younger, more politically powerful package. And that will be a really destructive force. And he will fight against, progressive and socialist change in the future. And so it matters to vote for an Ed Markey, even though Ed Markey's not great. He's just, he's as basic as what I think a Democrat should be. Like, he's a liberal, and it's like, at least he's liberal, but he supports the Green New Deal, and he's willing to, and he's always been on, excuse me, he's always been on the right side of the climate change issue, really. And so, he's better. He's better than Joe Kennedy. And also having him there at least allows another opportunity for in 6 years for a better progressive to come in and take that seat, more so than Joe Kennedy running on name recognition. That dude is just running on name recognition alone. And it's not name recognition he built. It's name recognition that his family built over decades. He doesn't deserve this. This is just like monarchy. This is oligarchy. That's oligarchy. When Joe Kennedy can earn a seat, when pushing no policy reason, he has no policy reason. There was a great interview with Ryan Grimm on the Hills Rising with Crystal and Sagar, and Crystal, I believe, discussed with Ryan Grimm just this race between Ed Markey and Joe Kennedy, and it matters. That matters. There's also, I'm voting for Robbie Goldstein against Stephen Lynch in my district for House Representative. Robbie Goldstein supports single payer Medicare for all system. You get my vote over. Stephen Lynch does not. Period. That's easy vote. That vote matters. So, but filling out a ballot, filling one of these things out, it takes about 5 minutes to actually fill the thing out, a few minutes to fill the thing out, like, really. But like, you got to do the research on your candidates a little bit. So altogether, maybe an hour of your time really needs to be spent. Maybe a couple of hours needs to be spent figuring out, who stands where on the issues and then voting for them, right? That could be a couple of hours, done in a few hours. In other countries, elections are much shorter than like the 2 years that we put on, years that we put on these elections for. Our elections should be much more condensed, and we shouldn't have to worry about this stuff. But but voting doesn't take all that much time. It's really when we start to put too much of our individual effort of like campaigning for candidates that are, one, if they're not strong on the issues, really strong on the issues, the AOCs, the Ilhan Omars, the Rashida Tlaibs, the Alex Morses, the Isain Luckys, like, you got to be strong on the issues to deserve people's like volunteer time. But we can, I think, for those people, for the folks that are really fighting, true progressives, I do think that they even garner more time from us to make a few phone calls, knock on a few doors. Yes, that I think is good time spent, and it will be effective. But I don't think it's as effective as we make it out to be. And I think that by and large, that strategy alone will not get us to the promised land. We must push for democracy in our workplace and building those socialist institutions up within our community, fight for more democracy within our community on a more local level, just fight for democracy on a smaller level. And then we can build up from there, whatever. But I think that a lot of these presidential elections are by and large inconsequential to the masses of people. It's like whoever's in there, it's not going to make a bunch of difference substantively for the masses of people, for most people. It won't substantively change anything. I don't think the Donald Trump presidency, and I'm a black person, and I'm disgusted by the police brutality and all of his rhetoric around it. But I don't think it was, if you look at the statistics, considerably any worse than the Barack Obama presidency. I mean, Black Lives Matter started under Obama. I Can't Breathe, that was Eric Garner under Obama. Like, these people didn't get justice. They didn't get justice under a black president. They didn't get justice under a Democratic president. And the police will continue to not, the police will continue to, live above the law and not have to face justice under a Joe Biden, Kamala Harris presidency. they're already, you know, not in favor of defunding the police. Joe Biden is actually in favor of increasing funding to police. And Kamala Harris she's a cop. Kamala's a cop. She's a prosecutor, lifelong prosecutor. She, you know, glowingly laughs about locking up the parents of truant kids, and, you know, left people on, you know, has had lots of wrongful convictions, and left a guy on death row and denied him the ability to have DNA evidence reviewed. And so, you know, I just think that when in the case of presidential elections, where especially particularly, or any other election where there's not all this much difference between two capitalist, you know, parties that are going to be doing a lot of the same programs, I don't think that it has as much impact as we would want it to, and spending too much time on it, I do think, is ineffective in a way. And we have to spend more of our time fighting for change by doing things like working on building unions. And some people are doing this too, and that's fine. If you're doing all of that, and I saw like Steve Alvarez commented and said like he does all of that. That's amazing. One, like, we shout out to Steve Alvarez for doing what he does and for like fighting on these issues, but then also fighting for unionization in the workplace and fighting in the community and on local issues. And so you can do both, right? We can do both. And if you have the capacity, if you don't have all that capacity, I say start with the local, start with the as small as you can, building democracy in the smallest places that you can. So where you have the most control over. So like the workplace and in your housing, if you can, you know, coordinate with your other tenants if you live in an apartment building, and start to talk about building tenant unions and fighting for, you know, tenant rights that way, you know, fight against the rent hikes and the unnecessary rent increases and things like that together. And I think that building solidarity in the community and fighting for more democracy in the workplace and other smaller institutions, I think that is going to be a lot more effective. And let me just say, you know, shameless plug here, I really honestly, I genuinely believe that what we're doing here in this channel is a part of that. And that's why any endeavor that I'm engaging in right now, I'm working on this podcast, and then I'm also working on something called Raise Fist Media with Kwame Norville, who's been in the comments, and you see Raise Fist Media commenting in the comments. It's another project that I'm working on where we're building it as a democratic workplace. And that is the one condition of anywhere that I'm going to be, you know, any enterprise that I'm building must be a democratic workplace. And so by contributing to this cause, you're contributing to the growth of a democratic workplace. That's real socialism as defined by somebody like Richard Wolff. And we can get into the idea of like, oh, well, I'm giving money. Isn't that capitalism? No, that's not what capitalism is. And I want to do a whole discussion around what is capitalism versus socialism, and we'll do a better discussion around that. But we're already up to 2 hours, and I cannot believe this. It's ridiculous. I don't even know how the time flies on these things. I've only gotten through essentially 2 things so far, and I want to get through a lot more. So I'm gonna have to forge ahead. Let me just check out the comments because I see a lot flowing through. And so let me just check out a few here before we move on to the next topic. So lots of comments. Well, thank you so much to everyone commenting. This is a lively chat today, and I'm loving this. I'm trying to do these streams at different times to gauge what the engagement is like between doing them earlier, doing them later. And I gotta say, I tend to notice a lot more engagement early on. Maybe people just have more energy at that point, honestly. And so I'm leaning towards doing these streams more towards this time of day and earlier on in the day. Let me know what you think about what's an ideal time for you to catch these streams. I would like to get on a more regular schedule so that folks know when to expect these. It can be a little hard, and you know, I'm building all this stuff on the fly. Any feedback you have or you know, suggestions, please let me know. I read everything, even if you don't see me respond to everything. I'm really slow on responding. I apologize to everyone that I still have to respond to. It's one thing I struggle with, and I'm going to continue to struggle with it, but I will work on it and continue to work on it and try to be more as responsive as I can be. Just know that I do read all the comments and really deeply appreciate them, and all the suggestions and feedback you give. I read every bit of it. I consider it, you know, thoughtfully and deeply. And so just thank you, and I appreciate it, and keep it coming. And I all of that is helping to influence how this channel develops. And so keep it coming. To everyone that's reached out to me, Twitter, email, you know, in the comments, anywhere, I appreciate it, and please keep it coming. So, all right. Race Fist Media says, love kicking it with y'all. Got to do some packing, hopefully done quick so I can jump on the stream with y'all again soon. Awesome. Shout out to Kwame over there doing a little moving today. Good luck. If you need some help, Kwame, I can definitely lend a hand at some point. I can't. So let me know. We'll link up. All right. So just calling back in, no name /X's comment on this issue. X says, vote for piece of shit Biden, even if you hate his guts like I do, because Trump is an absolute monster. So I totally understand that perspective, and just like, you know, vote for Biden because you know, to get Trump out, but just acknowledge if you're in a blue state, he's going to win. Biden's going to win in a safe blue state. If you're in a safe blue state, Biden's going to win. And nothing that this channel does, because I'm tiny and I'm, you know, I don't matter right now, you know, in this you know, in the larger like zeitgeist and such, and not yet at least. And like, so, you know, nothing that happens on this channel or that we do in our small contingent on the left, you know, is going to radically shift an election in a safe blue state. So you can still safely vote for a third party. If you're a leftist, if you're watching this and you're in a safe blue state, I think you can vote for a third party in a safe blue state and help to build a power that actually is more likely to bring about the change that you actually care about. Because I know that if you're watching this, you're a leftist, you're a, you know, somewhere between social democrat and a socialist or communist or anarchist. Honestly, I hope anarchists are watching this. Shout out to the anarchist fam. And, you know, you're somewhere on that spectrum of the left. And so I know you agree with, say, the Green Party on the issues, even if you don't agree with them totally on strategy. I agree with the Socialist Party candidate, Jeff Mackler, more on strategy and on issues. But I'm voting Green to help build power. That's a strategic vote for me. And so just consider that if you're trying to vote strategically, is like, you can afford to give a vote to the Green Party in a safe blue district. I keep on, you know, caveating that. I think it's worth considering at least a vote for the Green Party. Get them over the 5% threshold, which gives them federal funding and will get them automatically on the ballot in a bunch of states that they have to work for, and they have to have this uphill battle. So if you really believe in breaking through this two-party structure, this two-capitalist party structure, well, consider voting for a anti-capitalist party that, if your vote is just going to go into the ether anyway and not really matter, maybe it can matter by giving power to the Green Party in helping build a viable third party. I really think that we're going to have to fight for a People's Party in 2024 and beyond. I'm Cornel West is starting to lean in this direction, and I lean where Cornel West leans. And he's been sounding alarm slowly, saying maybe the Democratic Party is just too far gone and we are not going to be able to build the power that the left needs to build through the Democratic Party. There is some chance of that. And listen, I think that if we build an actual viable third party, there will be a lot of folks that are right now under the Democratic Party that would move over to us. AOC, Ro Khanna, Pramila Jayapal, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. So, but like Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Jamal Bowman, Mondaire Jones, Cory Bush, Alex Morse, if he makes it to Congress, please support Alex Morse if you can. He deserves support. Shahid Buttar, support Shahid Buttar right now for Congress, running against Nancy Pelosi in California's 12th district. Support these candidates. And then, you know, I think that they would be the types to move over if we can create a viable third party. They would come over to us. They just need the party built up. They're not going to stick their necks out, you know, at this point. It's a hard thing to do. So running third party is really difficult, but there is a chance that that's our only hope. If the Democratic Party spits in our face and keeps kicking us in our face, and how much are we going to let them keep punching us in our face before we do something about it? And just like, you know, we can't keep turning the other cheek to them. That's my thought. So I know it's not the popular opinion, so I expect to get some pushback on this. So, and I appreciate it. I really do. I genuinely appreciate it, and really do appreciate hearing all the perspectives on this. And it helps me to, it helps inform my decision, hearing from the community and different people's thoughts. And so X says this is going to be a close race. Sure, it's going to be a close race. That's a problem for the Democratic Party. It should not be a close race with a global pandemic that Trump has failed to respond properly to, and economic crises that we're in, the greatest contraction of GDP in the history of the US, the greatest mass, the most rapid mass unemployment the US has ever experienced. And yet, and still, amidst all of that, it's still a close race. Why? Because the Democratic Party decided to put forth just somebody so uninspiring, and two candidates so uninspiring, with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, that are, just again, a slap in the face to the progressive base, that are the people that are willing to go out there and fight and do the real work that needs to be done to get candidates elected. Those people that, donated, $5-10 a time to the Bernie Sanders campaign, $27 average to the Bernie Sanders campaign. Those people right there, they are being, the Democratic Party has just continually turned around and slapped them in the face. And so, yes, it's going to be a close race. I think that that's a shame and a travesty, and just real, shame on the part of the Democratic Party that this is going to be a close race. But I think that it will be close in battleground states. I don't think we're looking at a real landslide situation here, because Trump has done so horrendous. And I don't think Trump's going to landslide, Biden, or win some blue states that he's never won before. I think that he's going to win the set of states that he won last time. If he does win, it's going to be in winning Ohio and Pennsylvania and North Carolina, Florida, these battleground states. And that's where the real fight's going to happen. So if you're not in one of those states, you do have another option here. And just, look at the votes at the end of the thing, right? And look at the votes at the end when they all get tallied up. And if the votes don't happen to be one vote off in your state to shift, unless the election was so close that it's one vote difference and you shift it that way, then it means that you could have voted for a Green Party candidate and it wouldn't have made a difference, right? Because if they're going to win by, hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of votes anyhow in the state, then your handful of votes for the leftists just isn't going to have the impact that we think it will have. And so we can try to build power in a different way than what we're typically told, because it hasn't worked so far. And we're just hoping that, okay, George Bush, look at that. I accidentally called him George Bush. Donald Trump is so bad. But what if the reaction to Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, is worse than Trump? And what if they get elected in 2024? And what if they're just far worse than Trump and they actually are effective? That's what I'm afraid of. And I think it sucks that it's that close. I think I'm angry at the Democratic Party for making it that close of a call. I don't think that anyone can definitively say one way or another that they know for sure that the next 20 years are going to be better or worse because of 4 more years of Trump versus 4 years of Biden Harris, and whatever follows from that, because something is going to change history. Whether Biden wins or Trump wins, history is going to veer in one, branch into one course or the other. And I think it's really hard call to say it's one or the other is going to be better. Bernie versus Trump, I could tell you without a doubt, 100% hands down, I know exactly which one would have been better. No question about it to me. No question about it. Because I think it was both short-term harm reduction and long-term harm reduction. I just don't think that Joe Biden is long-term harm reduction. And it might just be harm deferment with interest. And we might get something, the backlash could be worse. So Ben 2K says, and if they win, they're going to use it as if moderates are the right choice forever and further beat on the left. Exactly. That's just going to further entrench them in their way of thinking. If they win this race, they're going to say, look, it's the moderate neoliberal ideology that wins races, even though it lost in 2016. So it's clearly not the ideology that changed here, because Joe Biden's even worse in that direction than before. but it's not the ideology. And but only slightly, because he's only slightly worse, like, but it's still, so it's almost the same. And it's not that ideology. And then but they're gonna, they will use it as the cudgel to like beat the leftists over the head or whatever. And just like say, look at, your way of thinking doesn't work. Your radical, policies don't work, and they're not popular, even though they are popular when they're polled for. And they were popular even in the states that Joe Biden won. Medicare for all polled with a majority support in every single state that, that Joe Biden won in or whatever. And so like, even in South Carolina, Medicare for all had majority support. So these are popular policies that they'll still turn around and say, no, it was the policy that wasn't popular. When really people are just voting out of fear and have been, scared into voting for Trump, in my opinion, largely. I mean, you see it. It's like, Trump is so horrendous. It's not affirmative votes. It's not vote for Joe Biden because he's going to be good for someone. It's vote against Donald Trump because he's so damn terrible. And I just truly, genuinely worry about what comes next after that. And so, yeah, I agree with Ben 2K that they're going to use this to pretend like a Joe Biden victory, a Kamala Harris, Joe Biden presidency means it's some sort of like mandate for neoliberalism. And I think that it can bring forth, it's like the Groundhog Day of like neoliberalism. And it's like the groundhog comes out and we get 20 more years of neoliberalism. And it's like, I just... all right. So it sucks that it's this close of a call. So thank you so much to Skeptical Mantis for the great comment and for sparking that thought. Check out that thread because there's a lot of other great comments in there. Steve Alvarez, I've read a great comment from him, and I saw a bunch of others, and it got some really good discussion generating. So definitely check that out and leave more comments in that thread, and we'll read through all of them, and just comment on videos. Let me know your thoughts on these things, and hopefully it will spark some discussion and we can do this again. And anytime I see something like this, I'd like to highlight and just try to uplift voices in the community and have these discussions on the left, because this is what this channel is supposed to be about, is trying to work through these differences so that we can build a united left. And because we need to find a way to build power and start getting serious about building power. And I want to be a part of that in some way. All right. X says change will come. Change is inevitable. I agree. Change will come. I don't think it's inevitable in the sense that we can all just go to sleep and it'll just happen. I think it's inevitable in the sense that as long as things continue forward and people keep on actually fighting and resisting capitalism in real substantive ways, yes, I think that change is inevitable. I've been reading through the Communist Manifesto recently, I mentioned that earlier, and that makes the argument that the change is inevitable, that capitalism will eventually collapse in on itself, which I believe we are in the midst of right now. I think that we're witnessing the collapse of capitalism, and we're just in the midst of it, and it's really hard to see it. It's hard to know that it's happening, but I'm hopeful that it is. Although, a Biden-Harris presidency, it reinforces capitalism in a way that I'm not comfortable with and I'm not happy with. But, their belief was that capitalism will self-destruct, essentially, and that if you just leave it up to its own devices for long enough, and it is bound to destruct. And so I do believe that will happen. It's just a matter of when does it happen. I'd like it to happen in my lifetime, because I don't want to sit here and witness the suffering and the unnecessary dying of 47,000 just Americans with no health insurance, plus the 500,000 that go bankrupt every year. And just think about the indirect debts that causes when you go bankrupt. The mental health strain pushes more people towards things like suicide. People often are pushed towards suicide for financial reasons. And so, and just the stress of it is going to weigh on your mental health. It's going to create a less healthy society. And so I want these things to change now or soon. And I don't want to have to wait another 50 or 70 years to see it happen. And so it's a matter of what can we do to push to make change happen faster, to make change happen sooner. And, as silly as it sounds, helping to build this channel, I think, is going to be one small part of that, one tiny part of that. But I think that it'll be a part that does move in some small, tiny way. Again, I'll just say pushes in the direction that will be, towards the right side of history. And So that's, and that's through building a democratic workplace and building this as a democratic, channel and media, independent media outlet. And so we need more independent media. We need more Black independent media. We need more democratic independent media. And so you can support all of that by supporting the channel. It's patreon.com/radical democracy. Please head over to Patreon right now and just sign up for me. Pledge a few dollars a month right now if you can afford it. And just, you can pledge at $1 a month if you want. You can pledge $1 a month. I need to go change the tiers, but you can pledge whatever you want. I'll change it so that everything's free, everything's open, no matter what you pledge. You can pledge $1 a month. Anything $3 or less a month, they take out a higher percentage of it, believe it or not. And so contributing $4 a month or more, a little bit more goes to the actual channel instead of going to Patreon. I will eventually look into setting up my own website. And I mean, I'm a web developer. I can build my own website, and I'll eventually look into building my own website and taking the donations directly through there so that we cut out one more middleman and, just another capitalist enterprise. And if people are comfortable with that, we'll eventually get to that point. But so that there's, because they take out a good chunk. I think I have like about $50 pledge right now, but like they take like at least 13 of it a month. Like it's like, yeah. So I don't know. So please, if you can afford it, head over to patreon.com/radical democracy and just drop a few dollars a month to support the channel, help us to continue to exist and to grow. Hopefully, I'll put up the link here. Sorry for this. All right. So please support the show. There's the link down below, but the link is in the description box below. You can see it up on the screen there. Patreon.com/radical democracy. Head over there, few dollars a month, cup of coffee, buy me a cup of coffee a month. Essentially, it's not really going to go to coffee. Although, I mean, I drink plenty of coffee, trust me. But so maybe it will, but help to get some better equipment, some better technology. Just the service for doing the streaming service is like $50 a month for the professional plan. So I would like to get to $50 a month at least as quickly as possible. So that allows me to do things like, I'm trying this stream out in 1080p right now. Let me know if anybody's able to actually see the stream in 1080p and what it looks like. Does the stream look a little better? Is the quality? I'm looking at it, and honestly, I got it up on like my TV, and I think it's actually, I think I can tell that it's higher definition there. So hopefully that's working. And this is just a trial run. I get like 7-day trial on this software that I'm using, StreamYard. And then I'd have to start paying like, double the price that I'm paying right now a month. So if you can, please support the channel, patreon.com/radical democracy. I hate asking for money from folks that I know we're all struggling right now, but without it can't keep going. So eventually I'll have to start working, and it'll tear into this, the time that I can spend on it. So do me that favor. Appreciate your support. Love you all. Thank you so much. And let's get into the next story. If folks are still up for it, let's see. As long as we've still got some folks in here and folks are still watching. So you know what? Let's keep it going. I'll try to keep the stream to 3 hours today, and then because I'm hoping to do another stream later tonight to test, early stream versus late stream. So we shall see, and we'll check that out and see how that works out. But yes, so X says the real left is slowly gaining ground. So the real left is slowly gaining ground. I totally agree with that. We are building power. We are getting stronger every day. I wholeheartedly agree with that. We are building real power on the left through grassroots movements. And we are getting some electoral victories that matter. They matter. Having an AOC in power. If we had gotten Bernie in power, that would have mattered. That election mattered. So we don't have to like downplay that. But We just have to give it proportionally as much time as what they give us, the politicians that we elect. We have to proportionally, spend our time on those endeavors. But I absolutely agree, wholeheartedly agree. The real left is slowly gaining ground. The socialists, left, the democratic socialists, at least social democrats who are like center left, and like avowed leftists. We are growing. We are growing in this country. We are definitely gaining power. And the younger generation, it's just like overwhelmingly anti-capitalist, pro-socialist. Like, so we are winning with the younger generation. It's just a matter of having to wait out these like dinosaurs, and like it's going to be a long wait if we just have to wait them out. We gotta do more to push to change the public opinion and a fight for these goals that we have. And I really do believe that building democratic workplaces is the fundamental change that we need to make to our society. And support that by supporting the, this channel, patreon.com/radical democracy. And, it goes a long way, trust me, to building that sort of left power. So absolutely. Ben 2K responding to that says, true. And this time we speak each other's languages, so harder to suppress us. Absolutely. Absolutely. X says, to be honest, not going to hope for any meaningful change in the system, just doing damage mitigation at this point by doing what can be done within the bounds of the system. Yeah. So absolutely. That's what my voting is about. That's what that effort is to me. It is about damage mitigation and slowing down the damage that's being caused. And that's so to that end, I think that we do have to put some of our time and effort into electoral politics, because there is damage mitigation to be done. And so we have to put some time into it. I just don't think we have to put all of our time on the left into it. And there's many other places that we can resist and do real acts of resistance in smaller spaces where they're not really big, loud, acts or anything, or garner a lot of attention, but they're really effective in actually shifting the balance of power from capitalism to socialism. So, Mondragon is a great example of that. They started about 60 years ago now with 5 people, and now they've grown to over 100,000 people, worker cooperative, 4th largest company in all of Spain. And they got people from Microsoft and GE that go over there to learn how to be as productive as them, because the workers are more productive working in worker cooperatives. So we can talk about even economically, it just makes sense. People are going to be more productive, and they're also going to get self-determination. And you give people a vote, and I guarantee you that a group of people in a community are like Flint, Michigan. If they had democratic control over, say, that GE plant, I guarantee you or real democratic control over their pipelines there, I guarantee you they wouldn't have democratically voted to, swap their water supply system from the cleanest, largest surface area of fresh water, body of water in the entire planet, Lake Michigan, to swap that water supply for a dirty, polluted, toxic river water supply that has caused neurological damage to children. And, and even the decisions to dump and pollute those water supplies in the first place, those are made by companies that have no reason. Those CEOs and those executives and the people making decisions in capitalist companies, they often don't have to live in the communities where they're making these decisions about, right? Where the decisions that they make actually affect people. They can decide to dump, toxic waste into the river in Michigan, near Flint, Michigan, because they don't have to drink that water. They have their nice gated communities, and they're not even living in that state, most of them. And so you got companies like Nestle paying like $200 a year. This isn't even a joke. Nestle pays $200 a year to extract water from Lake Michigan, and they generate billions of dollars from that. And none of that money is going to the people of Flint, Michigan, or the people that live in those communities where they're actually affected by that. That money's going to some, handful of executives, and that should piss everybody off, while a bunch of people are suffering and have been used as political pawns by both Democrats and Republicans. Obama went there and he drank his little cup of water and did that BS. And look at those people in Flint, Michigan are still fucking suffering. They're still sick. Those kids still have neurological damage, and they still got dirty damn water running through their fucking pipes. And, under Democrat or Republican, under Obama or Trump, we get the same bullshit, right? And so we gotta acknowledge that shit and recognize that that's not real democracy happening right there. And those people don't have real democracy because they never had democracy in the economic system. And so it was really easy for the people, you know, those capitalists to take the money that they gained from exploiting their workers and use that same fucking money to turn around and then use that money to then oppress those same goddamn workers through public policy. So we got to stop. We got to fight that system in a substantive way. And we're not going to get it by doing little, you know, who you voted for, voting for that governor didn't mean a goddamn thing. You know, I forget his name off the top of my head right now, but he's like a fucking, like, he's like given like lecturer status at like Harvard school too. This dude, whoever he is, I forget his Dan. Oh, what the fuck is his name? You know, whatever his name is. Somebody drop a comment below with that scumbag's name. But the dude, you know, these are these people. And so we got to recognize that, like, voting, it's not going to matter all that much there, really, you know, and it doesn't matter all that much there. What really would have mattered is if, you know, we had democratic control, if we had built, you know, democratic workplaces up and we had something like a Mondragon existing in Michigan, they could have had the control to make those decisions. And I guarantee you, when workers have votes, they're not going to vote to pollute the river that they rely on for water. They're not going to vote to pollute the air that they rely on to breathe. And so that's why we need to fight for democracy in the workplace and then build it out from there and start with democracy in our workplace, because that's where it really has impact. And so much more so than the democracy that we get to participate in, you know, every 4 years or every 2 to 4 years. Imagine participating in democracy every single day of your life, 8 hours a day. That's where you would have much more, you know, in having much more power in that democracy as well, because you're one of only a handful of people instead of being one of 330 million people. So, Mark McKeever, thanks for this comment, says, Mark McKeever says, it was your RIP Michael Brooks video that brought me to your channel. Your passion is what keeps me around. Thank you so much. I mean, it's hard not to be passionate. I know a lot of folks in the community here. I'm honestly, I just channel your, you know, views through myself as well, because I know folks are feeling this. I know people are feeling this way. And I knew I wasn't the only one, which is what motivated me to start this channel, was knowing that I know we're not alone. I know that there are many other folks like us that are fed up and are angry about the system. And unfortunately, in America, as a Black person, especially a Black man in America, being angry about something does not always play over well, particularly with my liberal, you know, friends and folks around me, and especially in the tech industry. And so, you know, always, you know, being angry about these issues doesn't necessarily help you to be successful in this capitalist system. And so I needed to try to find a space or build a space where more of that sort of discussion and camaraderie and solidarity could be built. And so that's, you know, what has motivated me to do this channel. And so thank you so much. And I appreciate that. And it's hard not to be passionate about these issues when they affect us so directly and affect the people that we care about. And I mean, I tend to care about, you know, just about everybody, and you know, just on a human level and a humane level. And so, yeah, I will continue to bring it as much as possible. Ben 2K says exactly the same for me too. Thank you so much to all of y'all, and I appreciate your passion, and I see it in the comments and in the feedback and everything. I see the passion of the community, and it motivates me as well. And so thank you all. We're getting a lot of, you know, solidarity there, same from X. So thank you to everyone. Oh, Kwame says, oh, okay. Racist Media says, drag the image to your browser and share the tab. That's what I should have done. That's much better. Thank you for the feedback on that. Okay. X says, here's what should happen. Get Trump out and then defy Biden immediately and forever after he's in office. At least now we know he's absolutely full of shit, unlike before with Obama, who duped us. Listen, we know, but we are a pretty small contingent still, X. Like, I know we're growing, but we're still pretty small. If we had real power on the left, we wouldn't have lost in that primary. You know, if we had real power on the left, we could have won that primary and gotten Bernie Sanders in there. And so we got to acknowledge that we're not fully to the point of power that we want or need to be at. And so and I believe that there was a contingent before that knew this. We're just the next generation, and we're knowing this time. I would like to believe, and this is hard to see, but I would like to believe that there are more people that are aware of it this time and know going into an Obama presidency like we do, that, going into a Joe Biden presidency, I think there are more people than less people that will be duped by the fake pseudo progressive messaging from Joe Biden. And so I think you're right there. I think you're right that it will definitely be more people aware of it, and I think more prominent people too being aware of it. And we have some real strong voices on the left now that I think are going to, in media especially, we're building independent media in a way that I think is really building power. And I think that independent media is going to have a large role to play in that. And so, yeah, I do think that we are in a better position than last time going into this. And I have hope for that. And, I believe that no matter what I do, I right now currently still believe Joe Biden will be the next president, but I think it's so damn close. It's scary now. I don't think that, I'm 60-40 now. I used to be 90-10 at one point when things were really at their worst. And I just thought Trump will do something, but he's still done no economic stimulus. So that kind of, that ship has sailed a bit, but he still has a chance. There's still 3 months left. We're about 12 weeks out from the election. And so he's still got plenty of time to do some economic stimulus, and that will have an impact. And if Biden and Trump are only 1 point apart in 15 battleground states on average polling, that's in a bunch of average polls, not in just one standout poll. That's polling averages on the Real Clear Politics polling average. They are way too close for comfort right now. So I get the sentiment, get Trump out and then defy Biden immediately and forever. That's I'll be there, fighting alongside you to try to defy and try to push in every way that we can. I just think that we could have a slightly more effective strategy in, say, places like blue states of voting third party. You could still get Trump out if that's the only goal, because he's going to get out of your state, at least if he's, I know you're in Hawaii. Hawaii is a safe blue state. There's, I don't know if you vote in Hawaii though, but it's a safe blue state. I think that you could vote third party and not risk throwing the election for Biden. But I understand the fear, and the fear is real, and that sucks that's what Republicans are able to do, because they're so terrible that you're just afraid that 4 more years of this monster, how can we deal with it? And I just think that Biden, in so many ways, on so many issues, he's almost as bad of a monster. Check out that clip that he has where he's essentially doing the same Donald Trump speech about, Mexico is bringing they're bringing crime, they're rapists and drug dealers. Joe Biden literally has a clip from 2006 or something where he says the same shit to a bunch of donors. He's like, yo, all, Mexico, we gotta be, even if we build, and he was talking about build a wall. He's like, even if we build a fence that's 50 feet tall, they're still gonna find ways to bring their drugs in and bring their crime in. And I'm just like, holy shit, it's the same thing. It's slightly better. Is that really what we're gonna be spending any of our time, or fighting for these people, or trying to convince other people to vote for these monsters and these ghouls? It's a big ask. That's a big ask. And I did, I held my nose. I voted for Hillary in 2016. I went out, I drove to New Hampshire, from Boston, Massachusetts to New Hampshire as a black dude, knocked on a bunch of white folks' doors, asking them to vote for Hillary Clinton, against Donald Trump. I voted for her, and it got me nowhere. And you gotta forgive me for just giving up at this stage on the Democratic Party and saying, you know what, I don't think that there's any real hope, and I don't think they want us here. They've moved further to the right since then, and I just don't think they want us here. And so it's just hard. It's a real hard ask for me to vote against my principles on every principle that I hold, pretty much, in order to vote for Joe Biden. He doesn't believe in anything that I believe in. Medicare for all, Green New Deal, fighting for 15, legalizing cannabis. He doesn't believe in any of it. He's actually against a lot of it. And he's for, cutting Social Security. So sure, will he be? Angela Davis has come out and said, and Tammy often reminds me of this, that Angela Davis has come out and said that, she plans to vote for Joe Biden, but then push him afterward. And she thinks that Joe Biden is more likely to bend to our policy demands than Donald Trump. And I just don't know. I don't know. Honestly, he's more hostile, and he has the defense of the national media in his favor. You know, they're all going to be standing for Joe Biden in defending him. And I think there's hope that, like, oh, you know, we're building a power on the left. Is it not going to be? My worry is that it will be outweighed by all the people that are going to be over there in the centrist wing, the moderate liberal wing, that are going to be running cover for Joe Biden and gaslighting us and telling us, no, shut up. You can't criticize Joe Biden ever for the rest of this presidency, because then we'll get something worse than Trump is going to be their next threat. That's what they're going to threaten us with next. They're going to say, no, you leftists, don't you dare challenge Biden. You can't criticize Biden, because if you criticize him, the Republicans are going to use it against him in the next campaign. So you can't say anything critical of Joe Biden for the next 4 years. He can bomb whoever the hell he wants to bomb. He can deny health coverage to whoever he wants to deny. He can let the climate crisis spiral out of control. All that's going to still be possible. And they're going to say, but you can't criticize him. You can't criticize him in media like my channel is going to be pushed to the fringes. I'm going to be pushed to the fringe because I'm not going to agree with Joe Biden on all his BS and Kamala Harris on all the BS. And I'm going to be real resistance from the left on all those issues and calling them out when they're wrong. And they will be wrong over and over and over again. There will be plenty of material to call them out on, and I will hold them to account. Trust me. But I really do worry that I know these people. I've seen people on my timeline that are like, there's so many of them that, like they said with Hillary, if Hillary had won the election, we'd all be at brunch now, right? Like, there are going to be so many of people that I know that are going to be off to brunch while Biden is bombing, Afghanistan and Somalia and parts of Africa, and deporting non-violent criminals and locking people up in cages and being tough on crime and further militarizing the police, doing not a damn thing but giving us lip service, and really bad lip service, because the dude's like not even all the way together and stuff. Like, the dude is like, I don't even so it's not even gonna be great lip service, because he's just gonna pay us lip service and do nothing to actually placate the left. And so let's see. I think the big problem in the US, Ben 2K says, I think the big problem in the US is that you just got those two viable parties. That sucks the energy out of every movement, left or right, real quick. Yeah, this is the problem with the two-party system. It's just that's why in Massachusetts, we have ranked choice voting on the ballot in November. Vote yes on question 2. If you're in Massachusetts, please vote yes on question 2 to enable ranked choice voting. I think that that's a great measure to increase democracy, and we should be fighting for national ranked choice voting. In fact, I think that Andrew Yang has been supporting causes for the ranked choice voting. He's also doing a lot of things around like NGOs for like UBI and universal basic income, but he's also like fighting in for the cause of like ranked choice voting, which I think is an honorable thing to do in a solid measure, and something that we should be fighting for. So it's on the ballot in Massachusetts. I adamantly support ranked choice voting. It's a way you can still vote for the candidate that you value and still vote for damage mitigation. And so those are the kinds of movements we really got to put more of our time and energy behind, and put funding behind that before we put funding behind necessarily all these electoral candidates. Fund those movements, fund those organizations, and find those organizations that are supporting and fighting for on local issues like that. If you can, there's a ranked choice voting organization here in Massachusetts. They fight like hell, and they're really scrappy, and they've gotten their legislation to be posed, to the public. And so, and when you give people direct democracy like that to actually vote on these ballot initiatives, they often vote in the progressive direction. Often, not always, because there's other votes that we've had on our ballot initiatives that haven't passed that should have, like safe patient limits in Massachusetts for nurses, but that didn't pass. They just properly propagandized against it, and so they're really effective in their propaganda against it. So yeah, I totally agree. I wish we had a parliamentary system and not this like two-party duopoly garbage that we have. So totally agree, Ben 2K. It really sucks the energy out of movement building, because you're told constantly that you got to pick one, even if neither of the two align with anything you believe in, and they're completely antithetical to what you believe in, you're told you must pick one. And if you don't pick one, you're picking the other. You're helping the other. And they keep on, they beat that over they beat you over the head with that over and over and over again till you're made to believe, listen, if I don't vote for Biden, I'm voting for Trump. They say that all the time. And so people are made to believe that. And so I don't begrudge anyone who votes defensively like that. So What Up America says, I'm kind of on board with how David Dole looks at it. Just do all of the above, transform the Dems from within, peaceful protest, and third-party pressure. Listen, if all of those things could work together, sure, I would say I totally support that. I just don't know if doing all of that is consistent with third-party pressure. You can't get third-party pressure if you're always voting in the Democratic Party. In order to build third-party power, we must vote for third parties, right? And so we at some point we're going to have to step outside of the Democratic Party and vote third party in order to just get somebody the 5% threshold. We've not even been able to get somebody to the 5% threshold. Just 5% of the vote is all they need to build power, and we can't even get that yet for the Green Party. So is it possible? Is it possible to both work from within, transforming the Dems from within? That Cornel West has recently said that might be impossible. That dream of transforming the Dems from within, and trust me, I held that dream. I'm a member of Justice Democrats. I was totally on board with the board the ship and overthrow it from within. Right? I really believed in that, and I wholeheartedly believed in it about 2 or 3 years ago, and I threw a ton of my support behind Justice Democrats. But in the time since, I mean, I've seen a lot of placating to Democratic power and Democratic Party power from folks like AOC, Mama Bear Nancy Pelosi, and things like that. That I'm, for all the great, amazing things that AOC has done, and she has done so much, more than I probably will ever do to move the left movement forward. There's still some semblance of like, I still don't know. It hasn't proven that that's going to actually change things. We haven't had progressive legislation passed yet, right? Even with all the electoral shifts that we've had, there's still been no real policy difference because it's all happened under opposition party. And we're going to see how the Democratic Party responds when they're not the opposition party anymore and they're actually made to have the power and the mandate to legislate. Then we're going to see what they give. And my prediction is that we're going to get the same thing that we got under Obama, which is a bunch of, compromise with the right until we get nothing, no real concessions for the left. And so they'll constantly compromise on the right, but not to the left. And so I love the idea. I respect the hell out of David Dole, Rational National, great podcast. Somebody that I'm personally influenced by, and I've been personally influenced to create the show because of folks like him, watching folks like David Dole. And so I definitely respect his opinion on this. And that's why I think that on the left, these are great discussions to be had out and points that we have to really work through because it's not obvious. So I wish What Up America. I hope I power to you if that's your strategy. And I will not, we are on this, we're on the same side on the issues. And so we will fight together as much as we can. And, you're a comrade and we will fight together on this. It's just that strategy wise, I'm not totally convinced that strategy will work any longer. And I hope it will, because that's the strategy that is most prominent right now, from people that are of the left. And so I hope it works. I hope that works. But in the event that it doesn't, we got to try to start to focus a little bit more of our energy and attention towards building democracy in the workplace, building democracy in these different enterprises and the places that we have to actually exist within and spend the majority of our time within. So we got to build democracy there. Help me build democracy here by growing this channel, letting me, eventually hire a producer to help me produce this show. It's a hard thing to do, to both research, do the content, and have to edit videos and do all the production around it. Would definitely love to have a producer on the show, but I need to have the funding to do that first, enough to just pay to survive, and then having enough excess on top of that to pay another person to survive. And they will get democratic say in the workplace, and they will have they will be able to experience democracy in the workplace, and we will build this as a democratic media outlet. And so in that, it means including the community as much as possible as well. So please head over to my Patreon. It's at patreon.com/radical democracy. Please support the show. Just drop me a few bucks a month, and you know, it goes a long way to just keeping this thing going and growing. So patreon.com/radical democracy, few dollars a month, you know, it makes all the difference in the world. So please do me that favor. If you can afford it, head over there and just drop me a few bucks a month. Help this thing to continue to exist. I'm going to check on it really quickly just to see if we got any new Patreon patrons. Our newest Patreon patron is Mark McKeever. Shout out to Mark McKeever for signing up. Really appreciate that. Really, really appreciate that. So, all right, no new Patreon patrons. Let's just see our subscriber count here. 103 subscribers. Nice. We got 3 more subscribers. Thank you so much to all our new subscribers. If you haven't already and you're listening to this, if you haven't subscribed already and you're listening to this, please stop whatever you're doing right now and just hit that subscribe button. It takes you 2 seconds. If you're watching on your phone, just close out the live chat, hit the subscribe button, and then you can open the chat right back up and get back to you know, interacting with us here. So yes, thank you to our new subscribers. Appreciate y'all. So, all right, let me take a look and just kind of gauge, what do folks think? Are folks down to keep going? Are you all down to do another story, or are you kind of wearing thin on me and want to take a break here? I have a bunch more stories I want to get to. I have like at least 10 more stories I want to get to and discuss, but you know, I get a little sidetracked still in the comments because I really love the engagement in the comments, and there's a lot of engagement in the chat here today, and I enjoy it. So just some more comments. Mark McKeever says, there's the argument that if our vote doesn't matter, then why do politicians/PACs work so hard to disenfranchise the masses? But I believe our vote is becoming obsolete when our reps ignore us. Yeah, so I think it's a really nuanced one, and I don't think the vote doesn't matter at all. I wouldn't be voting if I thought that voting doesn't matter. So I personally believe that it matters. I just think that proportionally to the time that gets spent on it, both in the media, and I'm going to try to do better about that and not try not to focus too much on electoral politics, and also highlight the other organizations and you know, campaigns and things like that, to just about movement building on the left, and also different issue based you know, policy based focus. And so I definitely want to do more of that instead of always just reacting to sort of electoral politics stuff. And I try to do a lot of focus on economics and not just electoral politics, because I think the economics of the situation really matters, and trying to raise awareness there, and also just, you know, build up a knowledge base for folks on these issues. So yes, great comment from Mark McKeever there. Ben 2K says, true, Mark, nobody really fares their voters like they should. Exactly. Ben 2K says, yeah, third party where you are is totally fine, but in swing states it's hard. Yeah, like Nina Turner said, it's eating a half a bowl of shit. But if you have to eat a half a bowl of shit every election, it sucks. Yeah, exactly. Like it does. Like, when you really put it that way, it's like, who wants to eat half a bowl of shit? I mean, it's still a bowl of shit, right? So, but yes, swing states, I admit it's a tougher choice. I personally, yes, I probably would have voted third party even in a swing state. And so I know it's a tough call, and but I've been through multiple elections, like I said, and I've voted for Obama twice. I voted for Hillary, and just forgive me if I feel like that vote has not made any real impactful change to the masses of people that I actually want to impact. So Ben 2K says, I think Harris will be president in 2022. Joe is going to get some health problems. Not that I wish it on him or anything, but I think it's going to happen. Not totally out of the question. I mean, he already has health problems. He's already in clear cognitive decline as far as I'm concerned. And so, yeah, I agree. That something could happen. I don't know if it will for sure. 4 years, they're already propping him up, and just, he's held together by like crazy glue and just like conservative talking points. And I just a broken ideology, and that's all that's holding this dude together right now. And so, yeah, I could totally see that, but I think that he could just survive out. All he has to do is just survive 4 years, just continue to live and breathe, and he'll make it through the 4 years. And then I think he'll dip out after that. And then we'll see the rise of Kamala Harris, and that'll be a tough one to break, with all the liberal support and the like black girl boss hashtag bullshit. Like, we could end up with 12 years of neoliberalism. And the IPCC report that came out like 3 years ago said we had 12 years. And if we go through 12 years of neoliberal policies throughout that, we're fucked. We're fucked. The planet's fucked. And what are we going to do? I mean, we're literally going to get past the point of no return. And they said that we're going to get past the point of we're going to do irreparable damage to the planet if we don't drastically alter our climate policy in the next 12 years, they said. And that was, again, I think in 2017, that IPCC report came out. We have 9 years left. We're talking about maybe, one more year, finishing out the year with Trump, essentially. And then 4 more years of Biden, and then we have 4 years. We essentially have 4 years left after that, and maybe it's 8 years of Kamala that we're faced with after that. Like, what are we talking about? We're talking about not saving our damn planet. Like, we have to have a sense of urgency around this stuff and recognize that, like, push Joe Biden all we want, but like, what if we, by voting, we empower Kamala Harris? Like, we cannot ignore that the potential for that. And I really, really want to make that point without completely alienating everybody on the left, but we got to have some conversation around the possibility of that happening. X says, congrats on 100 subs. Thank you so much. I'm so happy. Thank you so much to all the subscribers. We made it over 100 subs in this live stream today. That's amazing. The channel's growing. If you haven't already, I posed this possibility. I have another channel that I built years ago. It was a cannabis growing channel, and just around like information on like growing indoor cannabis. It was a legal growing channel. Once Massachusetts legalized growing cannabis in your home, I grew some plants, and I did some grow journals and such. And I grew this channel to, it nearly has 1,000 subscribers now, but I don't use the channel anymore. I don't upload new stuff to it, but it still gets a lot of like activity on it from the old videos. So, some of the videos have over, like 3 of the videos have over 50,000 views on them. So they still get, frequent views and comments and such. It has almost 1,000 subscribers on it. I think it's already met the mark for being able to monetize, which means I would be able to use something like the super chat feature on that channel. My thought is to move all of my content from Radical Democracy over to that channel, just download the videos, upload them back to that channel, and then rebrand that channel as the Radical Democracy channel. And then I would ask my subscriber base here, as many of them as are willing to follow me over to that channel, to please follow me over to the other channel and start to subscribe there. And I'll post my content there instead. And essentially, if I could bring over the base from here, even half of the people that are subscribed right now, hopefully it would be more. If I could bring over even half of them, I would be over the 1,000 subscriber threshold. There's 1,000 subscriber plus 4,000 hours watched in any rolling 1 year period. And then you can monetize the channel. I think I may have already passed that mark. So I think I'm actually able to monetize that channel immediately. Most of the videos are like going to be demonetized based on the content of it, because it's like cannabis themed and like, I don't know anyways, but like, so ad revenue wise, I'm not really all that concerned with ad revenue. It's more about being able to use the super chat feature. So let me know what you think. The pros of it are that I would be able to monetize sooner, has a larger potential audience, because a lot of the folks are cannabis enthusiasts. And so they would be likely, receptive to left-wing ideas. And I talk about legalizing cannabis on the show and things like that. And so hopefully I would have a lot of those subscribers would stick around. And also it would just be a larger potential audience when I post a video, things like that. Also, just seeing the 1,000 subscribers, it gives people a little bit of a psychological trick, sadly, that is used in like marketing and things like that. But like, it's social proof. It just, people are more likely to subscribe when they see that there's already a base of support behind it. It says like, oh, okay, 1,000 people already felt like this was worth subscribing to. Maybe I should subscribe, check it out. And so it has that advantage. Cons of it are, some people might see it as cheating. I don't really have an issue with that at all, because it's essentially cheating a capitalist system. You know, it's capitalist in the sense that Google is a capitalist business that's running it, and I don't care about cheating them in any way. I don't really think it's cheating all that much, because it's a channel that I built, and then I would just be merging essentially the two channels that I had built over time. And another con is that it would have a lower click-through rate, which is important for the YouTube algorithm. So my videos may perform a little worse for a while and would be less likely to be recommended by YouTube's algorithm to other people. So there is a little bit there's a chance that could happen if I suddenly start sending out these, notifications start going out, and people don't care for that content that are already subscribed just because they're more concerned about cannabis content on that channel, then there's a chance that the click-through rate lowers, and then the algorithm doesn't like it as much, and they recommend the videos to less people. So there's a chance for that. Also a chance that it balances out with the fact that just more people are watching it in general. But there's also tedious work to move the videos from one channel to the other. So I have to do the work of like downloading everything, uploading them, and then I technically lose all the views on those videos, but not the biggest issue. It's really early on the channel. Let me know what you think in the comments or the chat, and if you think that that's a good idea, if you support that, or you think it's a terrible idea. Let me know if you're willing to move over to the other channel with me. And you can subscribe to that other channel now if you want. It's Greener Thumbs. Tammy dropped a comment. This is the name of the channel there. It's called Greener Thumbs. So that's the name of the YouTube channel my old one. You can subscribe now if you're willing to make that jump with me. Just subscribe now if you want, or I'll drop a link soon, and then I'll have to post all the links to the new channel on my new videos. So let's see. A couple more comments here, and then we'll see if folks want to move on and continue, or we might just halt the stream depending on how many are still viewing. And it's been a while. I want everyone to be able to take a break. You don't have to stick, through all this, put your device down, go grab something to eat, something to drink, relax, whatever. And you can always come back, or stick around and hang out and chat. Let me know what you think, if we should keep the stream going, or should I try to do another story? Are folks still up for that? Or should I just, stop the stream for now, come back later, and do another live stream tonight, which I'm almost definitely going to do no matter what. I love that the comments are moving too fast for me to keep up. I can't read them all, unfortunately, but I'm trying to go through them and find the ones that I think just a few that stand out and stuff, or that make a specific point that hasn't been made already. And hopefully Tammy will be helping me with this in the future. Actually, she's awesome, and I appreciate her. And awesome, right back at you. And so hopefully I can make her a moderator, and she can help me do some of this stuff so that I don't have to. And if she's helping and she's doing labor, we should pay her for her work. So hopefully that's another reason to subscribe to the Patreon, patreon.com/radicaldemocracy. Help Tammy get paid for her labor as well, if she's helping me to produce this show. So, all right. So X just says, all right, I'll throw a couple of comments. X says, yes, contrary to the claim, they budget $770 billion for war. What do they spend on democracy, infrastructure, and facilitation? Exactly, next to nothing, even though they talk about Russia. And what did they do to ensure a free and fair elections? And what do they do to enfranchise voters? Next to nothing. So, but they'll spend just obscene amounts of money on a military budget, nearly $1 trillion on the military every year. Dave DeCenzo makes a great point here. He says, all of these were during Obama's presidency. Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Sandra Bland, Philando Castile, Alton Sterling. Should I keep going? I will. Antoine Rose Jr., John Crawford III, Tamir Rice. We can just keep going with this. You can keep going and going and going. And it's just, and all that happened, and Black Lives Matter rose up, and let's just be real, like that all happens under a Democratic president. And so we gotta acknowledge this stuff and be wary of it and recognize what that foreshadows for this next, presidency, this potential Biden-Harris presidency. Great point, Dave. Thank you so much for making that point. Shout out to Dave for that one. X says David, also Standing Rock. Exactly. Like we had Dapple, and Standing Rock happened under Obama, and he did nothing. He did nothing until days before he left office, essentially, like a few weeks before he left office, after a bunch of vets went out there to stand in solidarity with the indigenous people that had been fighting and putting their lives and their health on the line to protect water and to just fight for the protection of their indigenous lands and ancestral burial grounds, and to honestly just fight for the preservation of water and clean air. And that's a fight that they're fighting for all of us, even though they've been systematically, oppressed and had genocide committed against them. That was America's original sin. They like to say that slavery was America's original sin, but let's be real, the genocide, torture, rape of the indigenous peoples that were the first peoples of this country, of this land, that was the America's real original sin, what they've done to indigenous people. And so I will always be in solidarity with my indigenous comrades who are fighting across this country and all over the world. Really, indigenous people fight to protect these public goods, these land, air, our water, the earth, from these disaster capitalists and these just oil barons and robber barons that just want to extract resources from the land. And yeah, that happens under Obama. These pipelines. You'll see right behind me here, I got the defend the land. Renewables, not pipelines, and it's got the no dapple on the hat and stuff. And yeah, that's what it is. It's like shout out, that's a TYT poster. So yeah, they got some good posters. Appreciate that one. Which if anyone knows some good indigenous folks that make some. I gotta do some more work to find some indigenous art and throw that up, and want to do whatever I can to support the cause, show some solidarity. So yeah, that happened under Standing Rock, was under Obama too. So we just gotta and X is acknowledging this and still saying he still is planning to vote for Biden, and he'll push after the fact, and push now and push after the fact. And so we can still have these agreements here, and still even if we disagree on the strategy, we still are, we still agree on the underlying points here. And that's where we can definitely find some common ground. And I don't know which one of us are right. And I hate that we have to be put in this position of having to try to decide this. So Ben 2K says, if you like to take a break, it's fine. I hope I'm gonna be able to catch you later. I think I'm gonna, it's 3 hours into the stream right now. Sadly, once these streams go over 2 hours, unfortunately, I have to, I can't, the original stream, I have to split the stream with the upload. So I got to remember that too. And oh no, you know what? I found out that there was something wrong that happened there. That's not absolutely necessary. I thought that there was an issue with this StreamYard where they were only letting me upload like the last 2 hours of videos, but it seems like for at least one video, it didn't do that. So it actually let me keep the full live stream. So I can't go over 4 hours for sure on a stream, or else it cuts the video off when I go to download the video. So we have a hard stop at 4 hours, really hard stop at 4 hours. I'm going to try to, let me just check out a few things and we'll decide. We've had 45 people on the stream, 10 likes. Okay, yeah, we got 7 people in things still. And I'm looking at my, okay. Okay, yeah, I skipped a bunch of. Okay, yeah, just the comments are coming in, and there's even more than I thought there. So, all right, yeah, X is heading off to work soon. All right. X has never asked for permission to search yourself. Um, all right, yeah. So I know I get caught up on comments and I don't make it through all the content that I want to make it through. I love this comment from Dave though. He says that I don't drink. He says you don't drink coffee, you drink hot milkshakes. Yeah, my coffee is like I put so much cream and sugar in my coffee. It's like it's coffee Kool-Aid that I make essentially. So yes, yes. My coffee is there's this great. I won't even get into the. Malcolm X has a great quote about integration, and he was like, you know, he's like, you know, coffee. He's like, you know, there's something. It's black, you know, it's strong, you know, and but then look at what they want to do. You know, they come in and they tell you to integrate a little cream into it, you know, lighten it up, you know, make it a little lighter on you, make it a little easier to go down, you know. He's like, and if you integrate enough cream, you know, you forget there was even coffee that you had in there in the first place. And so it feels like a personal attack. I feel personally attacked whenever I hear that Malcolm X quote, because I'm always like, I'm also biracial as well. So, you know, they've integrated. I've had a little cream integrated into me, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately, I won't say sorry, mama. But I've had a little cream integrated into me because my daddy black. And my, you know, I got a Caucasian mama. And so, yeah, so the quote feels like a very personal between the way that I like my coffee and the way that, my daddy apparently liked his. So, all right. Yes, no, my dad has a dozen kids, all except for the ones with my mother are all all black women. I got all my, got 6 brothers and sisters that are dark skinned black folk, and we can talk about colorism and how us light skinned folks, we got some privileges as light skinned peoples, and definitely something that I want to talk about. So these are all things that I have in my other videos. If I ever get to doing the other topics, I swear I'm going to fix this and I will not get so sidetracked on the comments, I promise. But when the chat is so engaging, what do you guys want me to do? It's so awesome in there. So don't blame me, all right, for y'all having all these interesting things to say. It's not my fault. Ben2K says it looks fine on 1080p. Thank you. Shout out to Ben2K. Honestly, I'm looking at it and it looks pretty good from what I'm seeing. So I really would like to keep this upgrade. It costs double the price. So it's like $50 a month instead of $25 a month. So please, if you can, patreon.com/radical democracy to help support the show and allow us to do things like stream in this 1080p and make the stream look better. And yeah, just better production value, better all that stuff. So thank you. Dave says, since the beginning of the campaign, Biden has told people pressing him on moving left on issues to vote for somebody else. So I will. Oh, yeah. Since the beginning of the campaign, Biden has told people pressing him on moving left on issues to vote for somebody else. So I will. I mean, Biden kept doing that, right? Like we all saw that during the campaign. You would challenge him in any small way. He literally said to like a DACA recipient, I'm pretty sure, but I know this was like an immigrant, I believe an undocumented person or a DACA recipient who would also be undocumented, who he literally said to the person said, like, listen, I know that Donald Trump has been bad on these issues, but when you were in power, Obama was called the deporter in chief. What policy changes are you going to make to support, DACA recipients, undocumented people? And his answer to this dude was literally like, just because he challenged him on his record, he was like, well, if you don't like me, you can go vote for Trump. Why don't you go vote for Trump? Like, you're telling a DACA recipient, go vote for Trump because you're trying to push me just a teeny little bit to the left. Like, there was that dude who was like a worker at like a union worker and stuff. And like, was like, yo, you cut you were anti-labor in these ways, and because of your effed up NAFTA deal, it cut my job, and it cut jobs from people that in my community, your bad NAFTA agreement. And you fully supported that. And Biden supports TPP and NAFTA, and those trade agreements, those free trade agreements, are the ones, and not fair trade. They're free trade, not fair trade. So free trade agreements are, they have done so much damage to workers all around the world, and he doesn't want to acknowledge that. You can't push him on that issue, or he literally tells you go vote for somebody else. And so what do you want people to do? They go vote for somebody else. Like, that's what he's telling people. He doesn't care to earn your vote. Why is it that then you have to be turned around and be threatened that, like, this is all your fault? Because again, it just brings me back to that. It's like the meat industry getting mad at vegans for not buying meat. It's like, you have nothing to sell us. Like, you can't get mad at the vegans for not buying meat. They don't eat meat. It's not, you've got nothing to sell them. So don't get mad at them for not buying when you've got nothing to sell. The Democratic Party has nothing to sell the left. And, clearly they've got nothing to sell us, but they keep on telling us, but we still have to vote for them. And that's where I think that this is a real tough point of contention on the left. So yeah, Ben 2K says, and it's well deserved. I mean, he told you so, right? What Up America says, got to be careful assuming that you live in a swing state. I live in Washington, and I totally thought we would vote for Bernie, but sadly, no. Yeah, got to be careful assuming. Got to be careful assuming that you live in a swing state. I live in Washington, and I totally thought we would vote for Bernie, but sadly, no. Yeah, that's so it is tough, but. Yeah, assuming you live in a swing state. So, and maybe you also mean like assuming you live in a safe state, maybe. Because I think that, elections aren't always guaranteed. That's for sure. But there are some historically just really safe blue, California. I don't care how many people listening to my podcast vote in California for a third party, you will not affect the election. I promise you that 100%. There's no doubt in my mind. If you vote third party, you will not impact a single electoral vote. If you're voting in California, your votes will go to Joe Biden. 100%. No doubt about it in my mind. I have no problem making that prediction. So it does matter if you're in a true safe state. There are clear safe states. If you are in a slight swing state, then you gotta, you have a tougher choice to make. That's for sure. And I don't envy you. And Ben 2K says a friend showed up. I'm gonna catch you later. Lots of love from Germany. Lots of love right back. Ben, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you being on the stream. I've gone so far off the rails on this stream. I don't know if I can pull it all back. I think, yeah, this is a tough call. Tammy, what do you think? Should I keep this stream going, or should I we're over 3 hours right now. I haven't gotten to a lot of stories, but I definitely intend to get to more stories later. But
how many do you have left?
I got, let me see. I want to talk about Joe Biden's new cringy ad, pandering to black people in the worst way. S&P 500, the Alex Morris vindication. We got some interesting stuff. Oh boy, yeah. I got about 6 at least ready to go. For later stream, whatever's left over, I'll do whatever. I'll stream about whatever topics are left back and just try to get through as many. So I would just keep going wherever we leave off. I'll keep going. So.
Do you think the amount you have is enough for another stream?
Yeah, for sure. It's gonna probably have to be split to 2 streams, but yeah, it's definitely enough for another stream. I only got through 2 of the topics today so far. In 3 hours. This is bad. Sorry, guys. This was not my finest work here on the stream of trying to keep things concise and over 3 hours. 3 hours, 12 minutes right now. So we got about 40 minutes left before the 4-hour mark. It's a lot of work to go back and edit now, but yeah. All right. So
if you're in the
No, I'm going to take a break. I'll take a break. All right, folks. I'm going to, I think, end this stream, take a break. Everyone else hopefully will take a break as well. And if you haven't already, please do me a favor, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell to receive notifications anytime we go live or launch a new video. Please, if you can afford it, head over to my Patreon, patreon.com/radical democracy, and please drop me a few dollars a month. Just donate a few dollars a month to help the show continue to exist. Really appreciate all the current Patreon patrons. And what I will do is I'm going to end the stream here. I didn't get to nearly enough of these topics that I wanted to discuss, so I'm very sorry for that. Give me your feedback on that and how you feel about that. Let me know in the comments. What I'll do is I'll do another stream later today for sure, no doubt about it. I already have all the material ready to go, so I'm going to try another stream later in the evening and see what the interaction engagement is like there. And I'll try to do better about getting through more of the actual stories, and then we'll get to the comments at the end. I just really enjoy engaging with the community, so it's really hard to, the temptation is hard to resist to read through and engage. And so, yeah, I thank you for being here. Thank you for checking out. This is not really going to count, I think, as another episode, but I think I'll count it. I'll count it as episode, 6 of Radical Democracy. But we will get to more stories in the next episode, and the next episode we'll do another one tonight. So sorry if that's too much and you're sick of me already after this stream, but I will try another stream tonight. And then if that's not getting a lot of traction, what we'll do, I'll just cut it short and we'll do the stream tomorrow, and I'll stream Thursday morning and see if we get better engagement there. So this is just, we're trial runs and learning as we go and learn as we grow. So thank you to everyone who participated in this stream today, for all the chat, all the comments, all your thoughts, sharing those thoughts, engaging with each other, the solidarity. We made it to 100 subs, that's awesome. Like, that is a reason for celebration. Thank you so much to everyone who subscribed, for finding me early and believing in this enough to just, give me that subscription and lend me your ear, and to keep coming back and engaging. I really appreciate you all. One last shout out to Mark McKeever, our newest Patreon subscriber. Thank you so much to all the Patreon subscribers. If you can, go over there, become a Patreon subscriber right now, patreon.com/radical democracy. And I appreciate you all so much. Thank you for being here. I'll see you all soon. We'll see you tonight. And we got plenty of other topics to cover. Like I said, I want to talk about Joe Biden's cringy new ad pandering to Black people, the S&P 500, stock markets hitting record highs in the midst of, economic crisis. Alex Morse has been vindicated through new reporting. And, we got water ATMs in Ghana that I'd like to talk about. Also, the U.S. in a recent report and study, U.S. is apparently the second worst country to raise a family in. So let's talk about all this and more on tonight's episode of Radical Democracy, or tomorrow's, depending on how that stream goes. So thank you all for being here. Thank you so much. Let me know thoughts, everything in the comments below. Share this out, please. Even though stream got sidetracked and we went a little off topic, please share it out. Thank you so much to all of our new subscribers and to everyone for being here. I'm just going to check once more to see if we got any new Patreon subscribers. Nope, still at 7. And any new subscribers? Yes, we're up to 104. Nice. Thank you so much to our newest subscriber. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope it's okay since it's public, but new subscriber, Cindy Nawa. I hope I pronounced that right, Cindy. So Cindy Nawa subscribed as of 12 minutes ago. Thank you so much, Cindy. Really appreciate that. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the community. So glad to have you here. So thanks, and shout out to Cindy and all the subscribers that subscribed in this podcast today. We made it over 100 subscribers. So, it's now we're on the road to 200, and then 500, and then 1,000. And I'm so excited to grow with you all. You found this early, but I do believe that this channel is going to grow really big someday. And it's going to be all thanks to the support of folks like you that, found this early and continue to support in every way you know how. So thank you so much. Share out the stream on social media. Keep coming back. Like, subscribe, hit that bell to receive notifications. Hit the like button if you haven't already and you're watching this. There's no excuse. I see 50 people that watched today. I should have seen 50 likes. If you're here, please hit that like button. Just helps please the YouTube gods and keeps this channel growing. So thank you so much for being here. Without any further ado, I'm going to shut the hell up and go. All right. Thanks, folks. Bye.